The story begins with a guy coming into a house and wanting to leave something for the resident, and it is very important for the guy, and that is why he will not leave. The guy pressed the doorbell, and the girl asked the stranger who came because she doesn't open the door to everyone and is afraid of others. The guy told Miss Zhao that her package had arrived, and he would leave as soon as she picked it up, and he had other packages for today. The lady told the courier that she was coming and would open the door now, and asked him not to leave and that she needed to know who had sent her the parcel today. The girl opened the door, and the same second the guy saw her, he froze in place and realized that she was very beautiful, and he would get to know her right away. The lady was very surprised and asked the guy what kind of package it was, and that she hadn't ordered anything and was interested in finding out what was sent in the package. The guy listened to the lady and said that as soon as she signed, he would leave and would not waste her time, because he was obliged to give the parcel to the lady. The girl's name was Zhao Care, and she was the 99th activation target, and so the guy should quickly complete the task and then he would find out. The guy stood in front of Zhao Care, and he silently looked into her eyes and realized that she was so worried because a stranger came to her house. The guy started to get very nervous and he has to endure. And there is so little left and he should not give away his plan, otherwise everything will fail there. And then suddenly the guy hit the lady next to him and blocked her path, and she asked him what was going on and let him give her this package. Zhao Qier was worried and asked the guy what he was doing, and she wouldn't let it go and would call the police and have him taken to jail. The guy took off his glasses, and he will calm Zhao Qier down in a moment because he clearly doesn't want to harm her, because how can you offend such a nice lady? The courier apologized to Zhao Qier, and he didn't want to scare her, and he doesn't know what he did, and at that moment he lost control of himself. Zhao Qier was shocked and decided that the guy was so handsome and was glad that she didn't kick him out, and she already had to find out who this handsome guy was. Zhao Qier began to reach out to the courier and realized that his eyes were beckoning her, and they seemed to have magical powers. And maybe he was a magician and a sage. And at that moment, Zhao Qier kissed the courier and realized that she couldn't resist the desire to kiss this guy, and he was pulling her towards him. The system informed the owner that he had completed 99 tasks, and the system had been successfully activated, and he had done everything correctly today. The guy noticed that the system was activated, and Zhao Qier shouldn't know anything about the system because she would ask him a lot of questions. The courier pushed Zhao Qier aside and told her that the delivery had been signed and thanked her for her cooperation, and next time he would bring it to her again. The courier wished Zhao Qier all the best and quickly ran away from there, and now he will figure out the system, otherwise he might have problems. Zhao Qier still doesn't know what it was and who this guy is, but she hasn't had such emotions and feelings for a long time, and it's a shame the courier left quickly. The courier screamed, and he had to run away from her quickly, otherwise she wouldn't just leave him. And where was the best place for him to hide from her in their city? The courier continued to run, and he will learn a lot of information about the system and will devote more time because it can help the owner in everything. And then a girl appeared in the courier's fantasies, and he didn't want this, and she should leave him alone because he didn't harm her and is clearly not guilty. The guy asked the girl to stop pestering him, and he was so tired of running away from her, and he had no strength or energy left, but she was very close. The spirit began to reach out to the courier, and he turned around and decided that things were bad, and he hadn't managed to hide from her, and maybe she would let him go after everything. And at that moment, the spirit grabbed the courier by the throat and strangled him. But he couldn't defend himself, because this spirit has a lot of strength and he is not an opponent. The ghost lifted the guy up and he asked for help, but no one heard him, and he is doomed. But he believes that he can get out of the ghost's grip. The guy looked to the side and an image of a girl appeared in front of him, and he can't move anywhere because she's tightly squeezing his body and strangling him. And then hands appeared from the floor and they pulled the guy towards themselves and did not let go. And the girl stroked the courier's face and came close. The girl suggested the courier to start, and she can't wait any longer and wanted it for so long, and now he won't go anywhere even if he wants to. The girl attracted the guy to her, and he doesn't know how to get rid of her. And this creature has a lot of power, and in this case, only a miracle will save him. The guy started screaming, and he doesn't want the girl to bother him there because he has the right to choose, and he thought that she would disappear. But suddenly at that moment, a system appeared in front of them, and it did not allow the girl to harm the courier. And now he is under the protection of the system. The girl was perplexed, and where the system came from, and she had foreseen everything, and the guy had already given up and could not defend himself from her. The girl was furious and told the guy not to leave because she had business with him, and she didn't want to harm him, and she didn't know what was going on there. The girl told the courier that he was hers, and she would not let him leave because she had not done everything, and he would regret leaving her, and she would catch up with him. The courier disappeared and the girl knows that she missed her chance and now it will be so hard to get the guy, but in the future she will still contact the guy. The guy felt himself in the familiar world again and ran out of the house, and he calmed down and there was no more threat, and he was able to get out of this place. The guy sighed and stopped being nervous. And there was a system in front of him and he had to find out all the important information and get used to the system. The guy realized that he was reborn, and the witch from his past life would not be able to find him anymore, and now he is safe and he is so lucky. But the boy knows that the curse that the witch left behind was deeply imprinted in his soul, and what he hates is catching up with him. But this is not a problem as long as he has a system, and the witch will definitely not harm him. And he believes that the system is capable of much and will study it. The system asked the owner if he wanted to get a beginner's kit, and he immediately decided to agree and wanted to get a kit and it would help him. The guy knows that this will 100% rid him of such a cute body and one problem will become less, and this makes him so happy. And at that moment the system lit up and the guy realized that the process was underway, and soon he would find out how to solve this dilemma forever, and the ladies would leave him alone. The system immediately congratulated the owner on the successful activation of the divine delivery system, and the owner can ask anything there. The guy asked the system if what he said earlier was true, and if it could eliminate his charming body and all-female intimacy. The system informed the owner that it had already understood his situation, and that as long as he was actively completing tasks, it would reward him with merit points. The system said coupon points are given depending on the difficulty of the task and can be used to buy things in the store. The guy asked the system if it was sure that these were discounts and everything was very expensive and what he could buy for 100 points, and he didn't understand him. And then the guy was surprised, and the system reported that the gift set would give the owner coupon points and he could try out the newcomer's goods. There are glasses in the store, and this is a barrier for women after the glasses are put on. No one will fall in love with him and he will no longer be so handsome. The guy was delighted and told the system that these glasses were great, and he was taking them because he was already tired of running and hiding from girls and being distracted. The system agreed with the owner and took 80 coupons for points and told the owner that he could take them and already evaluate the effect. The guy put on his glasses and wondered if it really worked, and he wouldn't forgive the system if it lied, because he spent all his points there. The system asked the owner to be sure, and it has the best goods. And fictitious goods in the store are impossible, but there is one nuance. The system informed the owner that the product was limited in validity and was only valid for a week, and she forgot to tell everyone about this in advance. The guy was angry and told the system that he wanted to return the points, but he found out that the product is not subject to return, but he can earn points. The system told him that the more difficult the task, the more points he would receive, and for one important task he could receive 1,000 points. The guy asked the system how many merit points he needs to get rid of the owner's curse completely, and it is important to know. The system listened to him and told the owner that there were not so many points, and the owner only needed to collect 1,000,000 points, and that would be enough for them. The guy was in complete shock, and when he earns 1,000,000 points and the system mocks him and does not want to help, and he understood the sarcasm. The system asked the owner what he was doing and whether 1,000,000 points was really an impossible amount for him, and she believed that he could handle everything. The guy told the system that he is looking for a delete button and wants to delete it, and the system is useless and will not be able to help him in any way, and this is a fact. But the system told the owner that the system cannot be deleted, and it is tied to the owner, and for failure to complete the tasks he will receive a fines. The guy thought that the system was not only useless but also harmful. But the system asked the owner not to be sad, and fate had brought the two together for a reason. The owner thought, what if he will never be able to get rid of his curse, and for some reason he does not believe the system because it is harmful? The guy imagined his old age and his fantasies, and grandmothers follow him there and do not want to miss the handsome man, and he is clearly the dream of any housewife. The guy was horrified and realized that when he was 80 years old, he would still be just as handsome and all the grandmothers would not leave him alone. The system reported that in addition to the 2 types of rewards, there is another one, and the better the task, the more points you can get. The system said that he had already completed 99 tasks for a newbie and let him accept the rewards, and also people have been following him for a long time. People said that the courier was a wonderful person and maybe he was sick and probably his work had completely exhausted him because he was talking to himself. At this time, all the people were standing next to the sports car and who is its owner, and they will post a photo as a keepsake of how he first touched the car. The girl told the courier to step away from the car and he himself will not compensate for the damage if he scratches the car and let him take his dirty hands off the car. The courier silently opened the car and thought that all people have strange logic. And why can't the courier have a sports car, and he is disappointed? The courier got into the car and didn't want to say anything to the people, and they were annoying, and he wouldn't stoop to their level because he had things to do that were more important than their arguments. All the passers-by froze in surprise and could not believe that the courier had a sports car, and how he could earn money, and maybe the guy was a bandit. After some time, the courier came home and wanted to take a break from work because today was a hard day and he was tired of carrying all the parcels to people. The courier put the keys to the car on the shelf, and as he expected, it is very pleasant to drive this car, and besides, the car attracts attention. The courier told the system that he would not have enough life to earn 1,000,000 points, and the system told him the level of difficulty depends on him. The system informed the owner that he graduated from a prestigious university and had perfect academic performance, and that at school he was a leader in basketball. The system told the owner that he was a typical protagonist and clearly underestimated himself, and the courier would easily earn 1,000,000 points. The courier listened to the system and told him to shut up, and asked what his beauty had led him to in the end, and whether he wanted to be an ordinary person like others. The courier resigned himself and told the system that if it wanted 1,000,000 points, he would achieve this figure, and ordered the system to give him the task as soon as possible. But the system told the owner that there were no tasks, and it could only give them if someone was in danger or if someone was breaking the law. The courier told the system that it was mocking him by saying that he needed to complete tasks, and now it was telling the owner that there were no tasks. But suddenly the system detected danger and informed the owner that there was a living creature nearby, and he should be very careful. And then there was a knock on the door, and the woman told Suning that she knew he had returned, and that he should not hide from her, or else she would open it herself. Suning asked Aunt Jiang why she came, and she asked him how much longer he would delay the rent, and what about the date. Auntie Jiang told Suning that if he decided to go, she would extend the lease for a couple of days and let him quickly tell her the answer to everything. Auntie Jiang asked Suning if she was really that old, and she knew she had grandchildren, but she still wanted to be young. Auntie Jiang started pestering Suning and said that she wanted to babysit him, but he was categorically against any dates with her. The next morning, people were waiting for Suning in the cafe because Auntie Jiang had recommended a handsome guy to them and said that he was the most handsome of all. The girl told her mother that she came on a date and she was wrong to be with her, and she shouldn't have come, because her boyfriend would be embarrassed. Mom asked her daughter what if they want to deceive her, and let her know that handsome men like to deceive such naive ladies. And at that moment, a man came into the cafe and asked his colleagues for forgiveness, and he was late because there were traffic jams on the roads and he had a hard time getting there. Zhao asked her mother what was going on, but her mother was also in complete shock, because she didn't expect this man to come on a date. The woman looked at the man and wondered if this guy was the one Auntie Jiang recommended to them, and why was she laughing at her, and he was terrible. But the man went to another table and hugged his friends, and they told their friend that everyone was waiting for him, and it was good that he came to the cafe to them. Mom told Zhao that she was so scared and she would never accept bald grandchildren, and she didn't want her daughter to have the same kind of fiancé. Zhao told her mother that with such a judgment she will be single for the rest of her life. But her mother wants her daughter to be happy in marriage. Mom told Zhao that being late for her own shows that their guy is not so good, because he definitely needs to be punctual. And then Suning came into the cafe and said good morning to the ladies, and he was glad, and he felt awkward because she and her daughter were waiting for him, but he would soon improve. The guy said he was from Auntie Jiang, and his name was Suning, and there was a traffic jam on the road, so he was late and made them wait, and he was so sorry. Zhao was surprised because she remembered that it was that courier, and she told the guy good morning, and her name is Zhao and she is glad to meet him. The waitress brought coffee to the guests and let them have a nice time there, and she will always be at their service and will stand near the guests. The woman told Suning that Zhao was very shy, and maybe she could ask him questions for her, and the guy there happily agreed. The woman asked Suning what his job was and what his salary was, and it was very important for her to know this because she was worried about Zhao. Zhao was indignant and asked her mother why she asked such questions first and why Suning would not want to answer the question. Suning told the woman that he works as a courier and earns 6,000 to 7,000 yuan a month, but if his business is bad, then 5,000 to 6,000. The woman thought that Auntie Jiang Qufan was a strange lady, and she seriously offered them a courier. And who does the aunt take her daughter for? The woman told Suning that it seemed he was not lying to her. But if he wanted to marry Zhao, he would need to have a place to live and his own car. Suning listened to her, and the woman told the courier that 6,000 a month could not buy an apartment or a car either, and she doubted him. Zhao Keir asked her mother what she was getting at and why she started interrogating Su Ning from their first meeting, and she didn't like their dialogue. The woman told Su Ning that her Zhao Keir had been spoiled since childhood and that she loved to travel and dress well and spend all her money. The woman told Su Ning that a person with such a low status as his was not worthy of even setting foot in their home, and that he was a disgrace to the family. Su Ning silently listened to Zhao Keir's mother's words and thought that it seemed like this lady had big plans for her daughter, and she was making him nervous now. Su Ning wondered if the woman was saying that he was of low status and unworthy of marrying Zhao Keir, and why she decided so. And then Su Ning remembered how the woman extended her leg to him, and she wanted him to immediately fulfill all her wishes 100%. The girl told Su Ning to lick her heels because he is a slave and is not capable of anything, and he does not even have his own opinion, and he will always be her slave. Zhao Keir and his mother looked at Su Ning in surprise and didn't know what he was thinking about, and it seemed that the courier was offended by the woman's words that he was a beggar. Su Ning was angry and asked Zhao Keir's mother if such a status was really worth despising a person and why the lady thought she was better than others. Su Ning thought that people like this lady also definitely had a bad influence on society, and maybe he should teach her a lesson for her words. Su Ning decided that it was time for him to show himself properly and that he couldn't be modest forever. Otherwise, people like this lady would mock him. The woman told Su Ning that he was just a poor man who didn't have a car and he was not at all suitable for her daughter, and he would not suit them at all. The woman began to take the keys out of her bag and told Su Ning that she would show the simple courier what a car was and let him admire it there. Su Ning listened to the woman's words, and Zhao Keir's mother asked the courier if he had ever seen such a car in his life, and it reflected her status. Zhao Keir asked her mother what she was doing and why she was humiliating him, because Su Ning had done nothing immoral, and she was ashamed of her words. Zhao Keir asked Su Ning not to take her mother's words to heart, and she is not that kind of woman at all, and it seems like she is too nervous today. Su Ning stood up and told Zhao Keir that fortunately he already had a car. He just didn't like to show off his things to his friends. Su Ning went to the exit and thought that the woman would regret that she did not consider him a worthy guy because he is not an ordinary courier like everyone else. Su Ning told Zhao Keir and her mother that he had originally wanted to get along with them as common people, but in return he received contempt. Su Ning opened his car and asked Zhao Keir and her mother if they knew what kind of car it was, and he was absolutely sure that they both knew what kind of car it was. And then the door of a sports car opened on the street, and people passing by couldn't take their eyes off the car and what kind of rich guy was driving it now. Zhao Keir's mother was delighted and told Su Ning that she knew this car because influential directors of the city's corporations drove it. Zhao Keir stood next to her mother and said that a luxury car automatically doubles a man's attractiveness. But the woman stopped being happy and thought maybe this guy is just a liar and let him prove to them that this is definitely his car. Zhao Keir's mother told Su Ning that he seemed to have rented a car before coming on a date, and she almost believed the guy. Su Ning told Zhao Keir's mother to let it be as she decided, and if the car didn't impress her, he wouldn't explain anything to either of them. Zhao Keir's mother told Su Ning that he was just a poor man and was cheating girls out of money and how he was not ashamed and was disappointed in him for deceiving her. But then the system discovered a slander violation and ordered Su Ning to show Zhao Meihua the card balance there and force him to humiliate himself for his words. Su Ning told the system that he had no more than 5,000 on his card and he would make a fool of himself. But the system asked him to calm down. Su Ning wondered if he really had to disturb Zhao Meihua's peace of mind, and that meant he needed to be more restrained in front of the impudent woman. Su Ning told Zhao Meihua that unfortunately in their world, there will always be people who look down on others, but all words are meaningless. And then Su Ning showed the ladies his bank account and asked if he could rent a car with $1 billion and if they had enough money. Zhao Meihua started counting the numbers on Su Ning's account, and she didn't understand where an ordinary courier got so much money from because he was a pauper and a liar. And at that very moment, Zhao Meihua was in complete shock, and could it really be that Su Ning had $1 billion yuan in his account? And could he afford a car? Su Ning himself was surprised, and why Zhao Meihua says that he has $1 billion yuan in his account, and he doesn't have that kind of money because he would live differently. Su Ning looked at the phone and became alarmed, and realized that the system had gone too far, and he had not asked her for $1 billion because it was absurd for them. Su Ning told Zhao Meihua that it was just a trifle and did not want to continue the dialogue with her, and wished them all the best and may everything come true. But Zhao Meihua did not let Su Ning leave and grabbed his hand tightly and asked her friend not to leave, and she wanted to ask her friend a few questions. Zhao Meihua became very polite and told Su Ning that the date had not started yet, and Zhao Keir wanted to spend time with her new friend. Zhao Keir hugged Su Ning and told her mother that it seemed like she forgot, and that in fact it was her date, and she came with her to support her daughter. Zhao Meihua listened to her daughter's words and told Zhao Keir that she tested him, and Su Ning passed the test of honesty, and he is a good guy. Su Ning was despondent and realized that Zhao Keir and Zhao Meihua were only disgracing him there, and they were behaving like gypsies, and now both of them have become kind. But Su Ning abruptly pulled Zhao Keir's hand aside, and he doesn't want to have any connection with this family, and they showed their true colors in the cafe. And that's a fact. Su Ning told Zhao Meihua and Zhao Keir that it was all over and hoped that they would not see each other again, and decided that he needed to leave quickly for business. Su Ning left in a car, and Zhao Meihua cried and asked Su Ning's handsome son-in-law not to leave, and he was handsome, and she wanted to be friends so much. The system informed the owner that he had completed the task and that he had managed to disturb Zhao Meihua's peace of mind, and he had received 500 points. Su Ning told the system that he had luckily managed to escape from them and reminded them that the billion was too much and the system had overdone it. The system told Ning that according to the price level of land with a billion, it would not even be possible to get into the Forbes list, and she had already studied all the information. Su Ning wants to forget about that couple, and now, with a billion, he can slow down his work pace or do nothing at all, and that's great. But when Su Ning did not expect it, the system warned him and wanted to tell him something important, because its owner must be aware of the events. The system warned Su Ning that slowing down the work pace would result in the reward being cancelled, and the owner would never be freed from the curse. Su Ning almost got into an accident and told the system that he was joking, and if he doesn't get rid of the curse, then what's the point of his billions? And at that very second, the system detected a violation near Emgrand, and Su Ning must complete the task and then receive points and rewards. The system described the details of the courier's task, and in the residential complex there is a famous streamer, Tuan Tuan, and many subscribers know the lady. The system informed Su Ning that Tuan Tuan was being subjected to the unspoken rules of the streamer platform by influential people. The system told Su Ning that the task was urgent and Tuan Tuan might get hurt so soon, and asked the owner to hurry to help her. At this time, Tuan Tuan was live streaming and told her subscribers good afternoon, and she was glad to see them all on the stream, and she would not let them down. Tuan Tuan sat in her room and realized that her viewers were very active today, and she would have a positive live broadcast for her fans. Subscribers wrote comments to Tuan Tuan and said that she was so beautiful and always happy, and they missed her and will love her. Tuan Tuan told her subscribers that she is with them again today. They will play Desperate Survival and let them send donations to the card. But at that very moment, Tuan Tuan froze and couldn't believe her eyes. And she was right about all the subscribers being so active today. Tuan Tuan noticed that a subscriber named Rich Guy gave her 10 rockets, and that's a lot, and she didn't think that the fan liked her so much. The head of the Dusha streaming platform named Fan Li was pleased and knew that without money, you can't get a woman, and he understood. But when Fan Li did not expect this, Tuan Tuan said, "Thank you to the subscriber named Courier for sending 100 rockets, and this is generous." Fan Li looked at this and couldn't imagine what kind of subscriber could just give away 100 rockets, and Tuan Tuan would already love the Courier. Subscribers in the comments asked where the Courier got 100 rockets from, and they didn't know this subscriber before, and it seems he is very rich. Subscribers said that the guy sent 10 rockets and calls himself a rich man, and he is not worthy of Tuan Tuan and can leave their broadcast. Fan Li started to get very nervous and doesn't understand who this guy is, and he is ruining all his plans and making him look like an idiot in front of everyone. Fan Li got angry and asked if the Courier really decided to compete with him, and he would ban him now, and then he would see what the upstart would do. Su Ning arrived at Tuan Tuan's house at this time and went up there by elevator, watching the live broadcast on his phone and carrying out the task. Su Ning understood what his goal meant. That guy with the nickname Rich Man, and he is definitely the system never makes mistakes, and he will save Tuan Tuan soon. Su Ning felt sorry because he needed to disgrace this guy, but 100 missiles was too much, and he spent 1,000,000 yuan on Tuan Tuan. Su Ning went up to the 8th floor and accepted that all expenses were part of the task, and the system asked Su Ning to admit that he was happy about it. Su Ning got out of the elevator and thought that once he got rid of this curse, he would spend more time for himself and rest somewhere with a lady. Su Ning reached the apartment, and it seemed that Tuan Tuan lived there, and he immediately knocked on the door and said, "Good afternoon," and he brought the delivery to them. Su Ning pushed the door and asked if Tuan Tuan lived there, but no one answered him, but he clearly heard her voice in the house and he didn't like it. Su Ning was surprised if the door to Tuan Tuan's house was open, and something happened, and it seemed like he had arrived to her in time, and the system would help them. Suning wondered if that guy had broken into Tuan Tuan's house, and that he could expect anything from him, and he would stop him and punish him for everything. Suning went into Tuan Tuan's house and told the guy to let the girl go, and he will regret it because he guarantees that he will traumatize him for all his actions. Suning noticed that Tuan Tuan was live streaming and saying that the courier had not been heard from after he sent such a gift. Suning decided that Tuan Tuan seemed to be safe in the house, and he only needed her to sign and he would immediately complete the task. But at that very moment, someone called Tuan Tuan and Suning stood there to the side and wanted to monitor the situation in order to protect Tuan there. Tuan Tuan answered the call and asked who was calling her, because she was busy and was broadcasting live, and all her subscribers were waiting for her there on air. The interlocutor asked the girl if her name was Tuan Tuan, and she realized that maybe it was another subscriber who decided to call his idol on the stream. Tuan Tuan told the interlocutor that it was not her, and they obviously had the wrong number, and asked not to disturb her anymore, and that she was busy with business. Feng Li told Tuan Tuan that if she hung up, he would reveal all her personal information such as her address and the hospital where her mother was. The streamer told Feng Li that they were definitely mistaken, and she was not Tuan Tuan, but she could help find her if it was so important to them and would not abandon her. But Feng Li told Tuan Tuan that he knows that she only streams to pay for her mother's treatment and lives in Emgrand, and he knows. Tuan Tuan got worried and asked the guy who he was and what they wanted from her, because she had never harmed anyone on live TV. Feng Li told Tuan Tuan that the courier had disgraced him, and she would help him restore his reputation and play a game of best of 3 wins, and he wasn't joking. Feng Li told Tuan Tuan that if she beat him, he would leave her alone. But she said that he was the rich man, and she would tell the police. Feng Li told Tuan Tuan that she could go to the police, but she should take into account that he is the director of a streaming platform, and he is very influential. Feng Li told Tuan Tuan that he could not only stop the stream but also deprive her of her earnings, and he would see how she would treat her mother then. Tuan Tuan told Feng Li that she agreed, and she understood that she had no choice because she had to cure her mother, and she needed money. Feng Li told Tuan Tuan that in 5 minutes he would send her his ID and they would meet on live TV, and then he would console her in the room. Tuan Tuan started to cry and doesn't know why they are threatening her, because she didn't harm anyone and wants to cure her mother, and they want to stop her. And at that moment, Suning opened the door and entered Tuan Tuan's room, and he understood what the system meant, and now he would help the streamer. Tuan Tuan turned around and she was not expecting guests and does not know who visited her house, and maybe the stranger will answer her questions and he is not an enemy. Suning asked Tuan Tuan to let him help her, and he heard what situation she was in, and he would punish the one who threatened the lady. Tuan Tuan was completely shocked when she saw Suning, and asked the guy who he was and how he got into her house, and he was impudent and scaring her now. Suning asked Tuan Tuan not to be nervous, and he is a simple courier, and he called her, but she did not respond. And he entered her house, and he is not an opponent. Tuan Tuan threw a bottle at Suning and asked if couriers were now breaking locks, and he was a liar, and she didn't believe his words there. Suning dodged the bottle and told Tuan Tuan that it was not his fault that she did not lock the door herself, and he should have left the package. Tuan Tuan realized that it seemed like she forgot to lock the door again, and this often happens to her. But no one had ever broken in there before. Tuan Tuan yelled at Suning and asked who allowed him to enter her room because she was broadcasting live and wasn't expecting guests. But he came in. Suning said that Tuan Tuan is not as kind and sweet in real life as she is on the stream, and therefore you can't judge a person just by what she shows on the internet. Suning told Tuan Tuan that he had made a mistake and would just leave the package there, and asked her not to forget to sign for it, and he would leave from there. And at that very second, Tuan Tuan hit Suning on the back of the head, and he realized that he couldn't turn his back on Tuan Tuan, and she was aggressive. Tuan Tuan asked Suning how he knew who she was and if he was a stalker, but he told his friend that he accidentally overheard her conversation. Suning was in great pain, and he asked Tuan Tuan not to worry, and he would not tell anyone about this and would take this information of hers to her grave. Tuan Tuan listened to Suning's words and said that if he said that she would make him a lady and told him to get out of her house, and he really pissed her off. Suning asked Tuan Tuan what she would do with the bet and how she wanted to resolve the issue with the scoundrel, since he had brazenly threatened her recently. Tuan Tuan tensed up, and could it be that Suning still hasn't left home and is interfering in her personal affairs, and it clearly doesn't concern him, and she is angry. Tuan Tuan asked Suning why he was interested in her problems, and maybe he came to threaten her and let him answer her questions now. Suning told Tuan Tuan that he was actually her subscriber and came to help her, and he used to be a pro in their game of desperate survival. The system listened to Su Ning's words and recognized the owner's boasting, and he tells Tuan Tuan that he can defeat any player and he is confident. Tuan Tuan was surprised and asked Su Ning if he was really a pro at the game, and why he didn't make money from it since he had talent. Su Ning told Tuan Tuan that streaming is not his thing, and he quit and went to work as a courier, and he does not tolerate when ladies are threatened like that. Tuan Tuan asked Su Ning if he was telling the truth, and he asked her to believe him, and together they would defeat the villain and punish him for his threats. Su Ning told Tuan Tuan that she and Feng Li clearly had no agreement to help each other, and they would cope, and the lady should believe in their success. Su Ning thought that now it was the system's turn, and it should help him because he relied on it in any situation and had no doubts. Tuan Tuan asked Su Ning why he needed a laptop at work because she knew that couriers didn't need laptops and maybe he had other things to do. Su Ning told Tuan Tuan that she could consider it a habit and not dwell on it because their main goal was to help her there. The laptop was on the table, and Su Ning realized that these were gifts from the system, and he would show the scoundrel a masterclass in the game and let him not attack his girlfriend. Su Ning told Tuan Tuan that they had little time and he would get down to business, and she agreed with him and thanked the stranger for helping her. Tuan Tuan put on her headphones and she trusts Ning 100%, and for some reason she feels calmer around him and the scoundrel will regret his actions. Tuan Tuan started the live broadcast and she and Su Ning will defeat Fan Li, and he will beg for mercy because she wants to teach him a lesson for all his impudence. Tuan Tuan apologized to her subscribers for being off the air for so long and had an important phone call with a fan. Tuan Tuan told followers that she had promised a best-of-3 tournament to a friend, and noticed that Su Ning was in the frame. Subscribers wrote comments that Tuan Tuan would lose, and they would be interested to see how she would play and who else would be sitting next to her. Tuan Tuan told her followers that her friend is with her, and he also wants to participate in the tournament and hopes that they will all like it. Subscribers said that the guy looks like an ordinary courier, and they wonder if this is the same courier and maybe he is Tuan Tuan's boyfriend. Tuan Tuan told her followers that this is not her boyfriend and it doesn't matter, and she is creating a lobby and let people not discuss such rumors on air. Tuan Tuan entered the lobby, and the rich man also entered along with the courier, and now they can create a game and find out who is the best in the game. But a second later, the courier joined Tuan Tuan's team, and he will help her because he hates it when girls are offended, and it is so mean. Feng Li was surprised, and did this fool Tuan Tuan really have an assistant, and she didn't say anything about him, but it doesn't matter, and he is stronger. Feng Li started typing, and he had to ask Tuan Tuan who she invited to the game, and he guaranteed that he would beat both of them in their cool game. Feng Li asked Tuan Tuan who this guy was, and if they were talking about teams, and he didn't think that she would call a friend for help in their game. Tuan Tuan wrote to Feng Li that it is not against their rules, and he can also look for a partner and it will be much more interesting. Feng Li was furious, and he does not fall for such cheap tricks from Tuan Tuan and provocations, and who does she think she is? And she pisses him off. Feng Li called a friend, and now they will see who will defeat whom. And Tuan Tuan underestimates him, and the fool thinks that she can outsmart him. And after a couple of minutes, a player named Feng Long entered the lobby, and Feng Li was delighted because he was absolutely sure that he would win the game now. Feng Long entered the lobby and joined the rich man's team, and they both will fight the courier and Tuan Tuan, and there is a lot at stake. Now both players, Feng Li and Tuan Tuan, have assembled their teams and can already start the game because subscribers are eagerly awaiting the start of their game. Subscribers wrote in the comments, "Isn't this the same Feng Long? And he became the champion last year, and Tuan Tuan will definitely lose the game." The game has started loading, and subscribers will still be rooting for Tuan Tuan in the game because they adore her and she always pleases her fans. Tuan Tuan sat with Su Ning and was tense, but her concentration was on the game. And now no one would stop her from saving her mother, and they attacked in vain. Feng Li said that now they will test what Tuan Tuan and the courier are capable of, and he thinks that they don't have a single chance and they are both losers. Tuan Tuan asked Su Ning if he was sure it was a good idea, and if he won, she wouldn't report him to the police for hacking. Su Ning told Tuan Tuan that she could consider the job done, and it was not for nothing that he guaranteed her that he was a master in this game and had plenty of experience. Su Ning realized that they were being played by a real professional, and he really needed help from the system, and together they would find the enemy's weak spot. The system informed the owner that his request was heard, and it would find a way out of this situation, and the owner would not lose to a professional in the game. The system asked Su Ning if he was willing to exchange his 500 points for a professional player's skill, and she found the skill in the store. Su Ning was angry and asked the system why it was so expensive, and it seemed like he had done the previous task in vain because he would lose all the points there. But Su Ning was serious and decided that he could not leave Tuan Tuan in the future because he had promised to help, and how could he leave? Suning told the system that he agreed and let it give him skills and he will become a professional in this game, and will not disappoint Tuan Tuan anymore. The game has started and Tuan Tuan landed with Su Ning, and they both have to find a hiding place in this map to hide from the enemy. Tuan Tuan and Su Ning landed by parachute near the factory, and he remembers that it is the safest place and the enemies will not be able to catch them off guard. Su Ning asked Tuan Tuan to just follow him and he would show her how to get rid of enemies and tactics in battle play a key role. Tuan Tuan listened to Su Ning's words and agreed with her friend, and it seems he knows more information about this game than her, and he is already a pro. Subscribers said that the courier takes Tuan Tuan to the factory, and this is the most difficult location, and even professionals find it difficult to play there. Su Ning quickly found a weapon, and it is a good sniper rifle and he will be able to identify enemies with the scope even from afar. But at that moment, something caught Tuan Tuan's attention, and she looked so intently at one place and realized that it looked like there were two enemies there. Then Tuan Tuan screamed and told Su Ning to be careful, and there were their opponents in front and they found weapons and both waited for them to appear. At that very moment, the enemies started shooting at Tuan Tuan, but Su Ning saved her and immediately realized that the opponents had immediately found shelter in this location. The enemies continued to target Tuan Tuan and Su Ning, and once they came out of hiding, they would defeat them and the weaklings would not be able to hide from them. Su Ning asked Tuan Tuan where her weapon was, and when she managed to choose a helmet for herself there, because he didn't even notice how she moved away from him. Tuan Tuan was horrified and told Su Ning that she had not yet had time to prepare so well because their enemies had started shooting at them earlier. Su Ning told Tuan Tuan to stay there because it was safe, and he would immediately go and scout out the situation because the enemies were hiding in the corner of the room. Su Ning was shooting at other opponents and they shouldn't bother him because he's looking for a rich man and hopes that he can get to them there. And after a couple of minutes there was silence everywhere and no shots were heard. And Su Ning also fell silent, and Tuan Tuan was worried about him because he had fallen silent. Tuan Tuan sat in the corner as Su Ning had asked, because by following all his commands they would be able to stay alive, and random bullets would not hurt them. Su Ning began to approach Tuan Tuan and had to calm her down because he had not been harmed by the opponent's shots, and would now continue on their way. Su Ning extended his hand and asked Tuan Tuan to stand up and never be afraid of anyone again because he would always be by her side and would never betray her. Tuan Tuan and Su Ning were sitting at home playing a game, and she was happy and Su Ning was able to impress her because he is really a professional in their game. Tuan Tuan told Su Ning that he was not bad, and she didn't know that he was a guru and knew the perfect locations to ambush their opponents. Su Ning sat next to Tuan Tuan and said that of course he was a genius and no one had been able to beat him in this game and let them keep trying. Tuan Tuan looked at Su Ning and was shocked by the courier's impudence, and he thinks that he is sitting at home and she will already remind him whose house it is. Su Ning saw Tuan Tuan's reaction and asked his friend what was wrong, and he didn't harm her in any way, but she looked like she wanted to beat him up. Then Tuan Tuan told Su Ning that this was actually her milk tea, and Su Ning was shocked by her words, and he forgot that she had been drinking tea recently. Su Ning apologized to Tuan Tuan and said that he didn't do it on purpose, but she asked her friend not to worry and she didn't mind and let him drink. Subscribers said that they expected this from Feng Long, and he made a real massacre in the game, and he is a true professional and sniper of the game. Feng Long defeated 29 people in the game in Feng Li, not a single one, but they confidently went to victory and no one could stop this team. Feng Li realized that victory was close and that the fool Tuan Tuan had not played by the rules and she would call him daddy. Feng Li noticed that there were only 2 players left and they would soon finish the game, and he would wait for Tuan Tuan at the hotel, and he was already rude. At this time, there were 4 survivors left in the game, and Su Ning and his friend Tuan Tuan continued to walk to find other players. Tuan Tuan didn't think that everything would end so quickly and she shouldn't panic now, and she needs to stay calm at any moment. And then Tuan Tuan noticed that someone was aiming at them from the house, and she would not allow anyone to hurt Su Ning because her friend had taken so many risks. Tuan Tuan covered Su Ning with her body and asked her to be careful, and there was an enemy aiming at them from behind and he couldn't get out of the game, and that was important. And at that very second, the enemy fired and hit Tuan Tuan, and she couldn't have managed to hide because Su Ning was in the opponent's sights. Su Ning managed to hide behind the wall and waited for the perfect moment to attack the enemy and avenge Tuan Tuan, because the enemies were able to surprise him. Su Ning realized that this player was indeed a professional, but thanks to Tuan Tuan, he found out where he was hiding and now he can't hide. Feng Li was delighted and told Feng Long that this guy remained, and he had no doubt in their victory because his team had a professional in their game. But Feng Long stood next to Feng Li and told them not to stick their heads out and that it was dangerous, and he didn't know how strong their enemy was, and he was cunning. But Feng Li looked out of the window and asked Feng Long what they had to fear. And they had already won, and that guy couldn't do anything on his own. But suddenly at this moment, Su Ning was able to hit the target, and Feng Li was doomed because he did not follow Feng Long's instructions, and he warned. Su Ning was happy, and now he was left alone with the enemy and no one would stop them. And it was time to find out which of them was cooler, and he was so interested. Subscribers wrote comments that poor Tuan Tuan was eliminated, but the players were left one-on-one. And this is a battle of men, and Feng Long is a genius. Tuan Tuan told Su Ning that she was to blame for everything, and that she should have first studied the location in detail and then gone. But she was wrong. But Su Ning stroked Tuan Tuan's head and thought that she was blaming herself in vain because she saved him and was not afraid of bullets, and Tuan was brave. Su Ning asked Tuan Tuan not to worry because he was still in the game, and he would take first place because he promised her that he would save her from the villains. Feng Li told Feng Long that if he gets rid of the courier in this game, he will be in the recommendations on the main page of the site for a month. Feng Long was 100% confident in his abilities and told Feng Li that he could handle it, and there was no need to worry because he knew he was cooler than the guy. But at that very moment, Feng Long froze in place in surprise, and he never expected that the courier would be able to catch him by surprise and how he hid. Feng Long wanted to take aim at the courier but noticed that he himself was in his sights, and when he lost control, he made a serious mistake. Su Ning told Feng Long that he lost, and he thought that a professional does not make childish mistakes, and it seems that he believed in himself too much. The courier fired a shot and realized that a professional would not hide anywhere and would not be able to protect himself from a bullet. And he taught Feng Long a lesson in the game. Su Ning hit the target, and Feng Long couldn't do anything to the courier, and he hit him, and how stealthily the courier plays and he didn't even see him. The courier finished the game and thought that it was not difficult, and the system gave him incredible skills in the game, and even the boss is no longer his equal. Tuan Tuan was happy and told Su Ning that they won, but Su Ning asked her friend to rejoice there without hugging, and it was no use. The courier received a lot of bonuses for winning the game, and Tuan Tuan can call him to the game if someone else wants to harm her in this game. Feng Li said that he had never met such a strong player, and is he really the creator because no one in the world can play like him. Feng Li was furious and slammed his fist on the table with all his might, and Feng Long did not live up to his expectations, and he had to eliminate both people. Feng Li said that Tuan Tuan is a fool, and does she really think that winning the game will rid her of him, but he will never let her go so easily. Subscribers wrote in the comments why the courier was hugging Tuan Tuan there, and it looks like they were lovers and carefully hid it from them. Tuan Tuan noticed that she didn't turn off the live broadcast and everyone saw her hugging the courier, and she has to find an explanation. Tuan Tuan was very nervous and told her followers that they had misunderstood everything and that she and the courier were just friends and that she didn't lie to people. Tuan Tuan asked the courier if she was telling the truth and let him confirm all her words himself. Otherwise, the subscribers will not believe her, and this is a fact. Su Ning listened to Tuan Tuan's words and thought how quickly she changed her expression. Just a second ago, she was a nice lady. Su Ning coughed, and he will tell the fans that he and Tuan Tuan are not a couple. Otherwise, they will ask about their relationship and will not leave Tuan alone. The courier told the subscribers that they were mistaken, and that he and Tuan Tuan are not a couple but just friends and play games together, and that he is her colleague and friend. Subscribers were saying that the courier was such a handsome guy, and they were all his fans, and how lucky Tuan Tuan was that she already had such a friend. The courier listened to the fans' opinions and silently looked at the monitor and realized that it seemed his curse had not gone away, and the system had lied to him. And then someone started calling Tuan Tuan, and she was distracted from the broadcast, and today he is interfering with her broadcast and she has to find out soon. Tuan Tuan picked up the phone and realized that she was being called by the same person who just didn't want to leave her alone, and he was making her nervous. Tuan Tuan told her subscribers that today's stream was cool, and at the beginning of the next stream there will be a giveaway, and she will give away a lot of things. Tuan Tuan said goodbye to the fans and said that she loves everyone, and tomorrow they will continue to talk there about all the questions of interest. Tuan Tuan showed Su Ning the phone and asked what to do, and Feng Li called, and it seems he has serious intentions and he does not leave her alone. The courier told Tuan Tuan that everything was fine and asked her to answer the call, and as long as he was next to her, Feng Li would not be able to harm her in any way. Tuan Tuan listened intently to Feng Li's words and hoped that he was not a scoundrel and would admit defeat, since he and Su Ning had defeated them fairly. But Tuan Tuan was in complete shock because Feng Li asked if she really thought she had defeated him, because it was just a game, and let him remember. Feng Li told Tuan Tuan that he was giving her a choice, And if she did everything at the hotel today, he would let her talent blossom because he was the boss and the leader. Feng Li yelled at Tuan Tuan and said that if she didn't do it, he would unfollow her and remove her profile from the recommendations today. Tuan Tuan is amazed by Feng Li's impudence and who he thinks he is, and she will teach him a lesson, and she doesn't care that he is the boss because he is also an idiot. Tuan Tuan suggested Feng Li to fight, and she has friends and they help her, and even without recommendations, she will try for the sake of her friends. Tuan Tuan ended the call and thought that Feng Li thinks that he can manipulate people, but she will not allow it and will punish the guy. Tuan Tuan apologized to the courier for having to listen to her conversation with Feng Li, but this man immediately pissed her off. Su Ning told Tuan Tuan that it was okay, but he didn't expect Feng Li to threaten her so fiercely, and he completely lost control. Tuan Tuan was angry and told the courier that Feng Li thought that she would immediately come running to him at his call. But this lady is definitely not afraid of him. Su Ning realized that Tuan Tuan was not at all like that cute lady from the streams, and this was the first time he saw a girl who had a lot of emotions. Tuan Tuan told Su Ning that, to be honest, she was a little scared right now with this whole situation, and she didn't know what to do with Feng. Tuan Tuan said that when she started streaming, her fans did not criticize her and made her life happier, and she will respond to them too. Tuan Tuan told Su Ning that no matter what, she will continue to stream, she wants to thank him for the 100 missiles and will return it soon. And Tuan Tuan also asked the courier if he would be against playing with her again if she changed the platform, and that was one solution. The courier took off his glasses and thought that he would not allow Tuan Tuan to change platforms so easily because of some scoundrel, and he would punish him. Su Ning called and asked if it was the Bank of the Solar Moon, and the head of the branch in Kyoto answered and asked the gentleman how he could help them. Ning asked the head if they have information about the available shares of Douche's company, and he wants to buy everything and he is interested in this idea. Feng Li was kicking chairs at this time, and he was wondering what the fool Tuan Tuan would do now, and he would end her career and no one would fix things. And then Mr. Zhao came into the room and told Feng Li that he seemed to be feeling great and in a good mood, and he understood it. Feng Li told Mr. Zhao that he was just in time and asked him if he had signed the contract with Tuan Tuan and if he could hand it over to him. But suddenly at this moment, Mr. Zhao slapped Feng Li in the face, and he doesn't like the idiot's behavior, and he ruined the whole business of his company. Mr. Zhao asked Feng Li if he knew who was supporting Tuan Tuan, and it was Mr. Courier, and now their second largest shareholder. Feng Li was puzzled by Mr. Zhao's words because the courier couldn't buy the shares from them, and he wouldn't have enough money. And what did Tuan come up with? Mr. Zhao said that the courier wants to check all their financial reports, and he and Feng Li will go down, and it's all the fault of that idiot Feng Li. Mr. Zhao continued to beat Feng Li and said that he was to blame for everything, and how should they solve this problem and let him find the courier himself? The police officers listened to Mr. Zhao's words and asked the boys not to fight, and they wanted to ask them a few questions about their company's affairs. The police officer told Mr. Zhao and Feng Li that they were under arrest for tax evasion and showed them a warrant, and that they were required to go with them. Feng Li thought that this couldn't be, and how Tuan Tuan had so brazenly set up their company and now the police had found all their machinations. Feng Li told the police to let him go and he was not guilty of anything, and someone set up their company, and he himself would soon find an alibi and the culprit. The police overturned the chairs and took Mr. Zhao and Feng Li out of the room, and will judge them severely because they concealed all the crimes. Su Ning thought that Feng Li deserved it, and there was no need to attack and threaten the defenseless Tuan Tuan who always works honestly. And then the system informed the owner that his special order to help the streamer was completed, and his reward was 1,000 merit points and coupons. Su Ning listened to the words of the system and wondered if he had received 1,000 merit points and coupons for this task, and he liked these tasks. But the system detected the owner's fatigue and exchanged thousands of points for a hotel room in Lijiang for a week, and Ning will regain his strength. Su Ning asked the system why he needed a hotel room, and the system immediately responded that this was a strategically correct approach and analyzed it. Su Ning told the system that it had simply deceived him, but the system immediately said that the answer was no, and that his system was always fair. Su Ning threw the system aside and asked to forget about everything, and he does not want to listen to her because she is setting him up and acts as she wants. The courier told Tuan Tuan that since they had resolved all the details there, he should not stay because he still had a lot of things to do, and he would go and resolve them. But when Su Ning didn't expect this, Tuan Tuan grabbed him with her hand and didn't let go, and he doesn't know what's going on with her. And it's strange. Su Ning asked Tuan Tuan what she was doing and asked her not to scare him because her actions were irrational, and he just wanted to leave her house. Suning measured Tuan Tuan's temperature and asked if she was sick and why her face was so red and he should help. But Tuan Tuan told Suning that she was okay and asked him to wait for her there, and she had something to tell him, and it was so important. Suning listened to Tuan Tuan's words and agreed with her and said that it was not a problem, and he would wait for her if she had an important matter to say. Tuan Tuan slammed the door when she entered the room, and she wants to show Suning her beautiful clothes, and then he will definitely want to stay. Suning noticed his glasses on the table and realized that he had completely forgotten about them because he was busy with the shares of Dusha's company, and the system did not remind him. Suning froze in place and decided that his affairs were bad, and found out why Tuan Tuan was acting so strangely, and his curse was to blame for everything. Suning opened the door of the room and told Tuan Tuan that he was going to go, and he still had a lot of things to do, and they would see each other later, and he promised his friend. And at that moment, Suning noticed that Tuan Tuan was getting dressed, and it seemed like she wanted to impress him with her outfit, and he came into her room at the wrong time. Tuan Tuan asked the courier why he came into the room, and didn't she ask him to wait, and he ruined the whole surprise in a minute. Suning was horrified and realized what he had done by taking off his glasses, and now he needed to quickly fix the situation, otherwise Tuan Tuan would not let him go. Suning noticed that Tuan Tuan came very close to him, and she doesn't want him to leave and why the system doesn't want to help him there. Tuan Tuan asked the courier not to leave today and to stay with her for the night because she would be so scared alone in the house and he would protect her there. Tuan Tuan offered the courier to play a few games again, but in a different format, and she is absolutely sure that he will be happy with everything. But Suning quickly ran out of Tuan Tuan's house and realized that the task was completed, and the guard wished the mister a safe journey, and he was so happy. Suning sighed, and fortunately, he quickly escaped from Tuan Tuan, and he really wants to go on vacation and is already a little tired of doing tasks. Suning said that he was going to the Lijiang Hotel, and now he would definitely have a rest, because heroes also need breaks to gain strength and energy. After some time, Suning arrived at the Lijiang Hotel, and today he no longer has any tasks, and the system itself gave him a rest and organized a recently. The receptionist said good evening to the guest, and Suning told the lady that he wanted to rent a room in their Lijiang Hotel and take a break from its bustle. The administrator told the guest that of course she would organize everything and asked him to show his ID, and then she would do everything. Suning listened to the administrator's words and gave her his passport and really hoped that the system provided everything and there would be no problems with the hotel. The administrator was very surprised and asked the guest if he was Suning, and the guy agreed with the nice lady and said that was his name. Suning started to get nervous and asked the receptionist how much longer he had to wait, and she said it would take a couple of minutes, and he was standing there. The receptionist asked Suning to wait a second, and she needed to confirm something right away so that she could check him into the Lijiang Hotel. The administrator went somewhere, and Suning looked at her in bewilderment and did not even suspect why she reacted very strangely to the name. At this time, the guy was getting a massage and told the interlocutor that he told them not to bother him if there was nothing important there. The guy asked the masseur to try harder, and his back hurts so much, and he knows that the master has golden hands and will help with the pain. The guy listened to the words of the interlocutor and asked the administrator what she said and did not believe his ears because it seemed so important. The receptionist told Suning that this was their best room, and all the services corresponded to the hotel's reputation and they would not disappoint the guests' expectations. Suning told the receptionist that it was not bad and he liked the hotel and thanked her for showing him the room and explaining all the rules. The administrator introduced Suning to a group of professional services, and they will be available to him 24 hours a day. And this is true. Suning asked the administrator if these were their professionals, and he asked the lady to remove all these people, and he definitely didn't need them. The administrator agreed with Suning and asked if he had any other demands, and they would fulfill all his wishes, and he was the boss. After a while, Suning was relaxing in the bathroom, and he felt very comfortable, and it was not for nothing that the system told him about the Lijiang Hotel, and everything was cool there. Suning came out of the bathroom, and he got rid of the fatigue, and now he does not feel sluggish, and tomorrow he is ready to carry out any tasks from the system. Suning lay down on the bed and asked the system if there were any missions, and it immediately scanned the district and found no missions, and the owner is not happy with the system. Suning really hopes that the system will help him eliminate the effect of Meigong's physique and is infuriated that he is even defending himself from his family. Suning remembered that Ru had recently come to Lijiang with her friends to have fun, and he didn't know if she was okay in town. And at that very moment, Suning received a message and realized that he was not in vain so worried about Ru, and he, as her brother, felt that something was wrong. Ro wrote a message to her brother and asked if he was sleeping, and she had problems and she asks him for help because her brother is very kind. Meanwhile, many people gathered on the antique street, and they were waiting with interest for the outcome of the incident and what the security would do with the lady. The girl was standing in the museum and she doesn't know where to go and who can help her in such a difficult situation because she hasn't seen her brother Suning for a long time. Ro realized that the vase was broken and it looked like it was a valuable antique, and she had to compensate for the damage, otherwise there would definitely be problems. The man told Ro that she should be held accountable for the damage, and he saw her break valuable antiques, and they wouldn't let her go anywhere. A friend covered Ro and said that it was obviously a mistake and there were so many people there and all the goods were on the edge, and what kind of scam was this? The man asked the lady not to try to distract him from serious business, and their store has existed for more than a century, and their clients are rich politicians. The man told the students that they were talking about some kind of scam, but their cameras covered every corner of the store and they shouldn't argue. Ro said that she accidentally touched the goods, causing problems for them, and she is very sorry, and she hopes that they will forgive her for this robbery. The man told Ro that he didn't need empty words and the goods were damaged, and let her pay the full cost, and then he would let her go. And then suddenly the man told Ro that this antique was worth 10 million, and she was obliged to cover the entire amount, and he was not joking. A friend asked Ro if she had any friends in the city and if they could help her, because if each of them chipped in, they would cover the expenses. Ru told her friend that she has a brother living there and she contacted him, and she has no one else to contact except Suning, and he is very kind. A friend asked Ro which brother she was talking about, and whether it was the handsome guy who wears a hat and hides his face from all the girls. A friend said that he is the brother who did not go to get $1 million salary from the university, but got a job as a regular courier. Ro told her friend that she only has one brother and she always trusts him no matter what decision he makes, and he is nice. A friend listened to Ro's words and thought that, of course she knows that she has one brother and he is not capable of anything and the brother is very stupid. The man asked Ro if she had enough money to pay the entire compensation, and he was tired of waiting for her answer and let her tell the truth. Ro asked the man if they could wait another 30 minutes and then she would find a way to compensate for the damage to their goods. The man laughed and told Ro that she was a poor student, and even if he gave her 30 years, she would not be able to repay her debt. The man told Ro that it seemed like the family had worked hard to send her to college, and now she wouldn't be going to college. But the man told Ro that in fact, resolving this issue is not that difficult, and there is no need to call the police, and there is an option. And then the man started walking towards Ro and wanted to grab her body, and he is kind, and will find a way so that the student does not pay for everything. Ru told the scoundrel not to touch her, and she doesn't want him to touch her with his dirty hands, and she knows that Suning will help her soon. Suning heard people on the street complaining about how someone had driven into their shopping area with a car. And where did they get so much courage? It was Suning, and he asked for forgiveness from the people and said that he came there for a couple of minutes, and soon he would leave the area with his sister. The girl thought that Suning was handsome, and Ru was not lying when she talked about her brother. And all the rumors turned out to be true, and now she fell in love with the guy. The man told Suning that his sister had broken their antiques and how they would now solve this problem and what he would offer them in return. Suning asked the man how much this thing was worth, and he said that it was a valuable antique and it was worth 10 million, and that was true. Suning was surprised and asked the man if this chamber pot was really that expensive, and he didn't believe that it was an antique, and he was blatantly lying to them. The man told Suning that this was not a pot but an antique, and if his brother could prove that his product was a fake, he would eat the fragments, and he promised. Suning told the shop owner that it was good that he himself offered to eat everything, and the system analyzed the situation and resolved their conflict. The system showed the owner the skill of appraising antiques, and the cost for the skill is 500 merit points, and the exchange is allowed and let him think. Ning ordered the system to exchange points for the antique appraisal skill, and he will learn all the information about this antique and teach the impudent fellow a lesson. The system informed the courier that the exchange was successful, and now Ning will be able to personally evaluate the quality of the antiques, and no one will deceive them. Suning said that this vase has a chrysanthemum pattern, and at first glance it looks like a work from the period of the third emperor of the Ming dynasty. The shop owner asked Suning if he was an antique appraiser, and his sister Ru didn't say anything about it, or if he was a liar like her. Suning said the colors of the vase contrasted, and the style reminded him of a bowl with tall legs and a depiction of seawater in Kyoto. The shop owner told Suning that everything in his shop was treasure and he should quickly pay for the damage and not waste time because he was busy. But suddenly, Ning told the man to be quiet, and the density of the material is not uniform, and in some places it is denser, and in others it is the opposite. Su Ning said that if this is Ming Dynasty blue and white porcelain, it has been touched many times. But why did no one notice it? Su Ning said that there is a modern replication method called post-processing. Antiques are difficult to distinguish from fakes. Su Ning said that the colors of the antiques are so bright that even an idiot can see that they are not the work of the Ming Dynasty, but the result of new technology. Su Ning took a piece of antique from the floor and told the man that he himself said that he would eat it if his goods turned out to be fake. The courier told the man that he just decided he should start with small pieces and he was curious to see if he could eat it. Su Ning told the man to have a little snack and he would wait for him there, and he and his sister would find out how brave he was. Because he promised in front of people, the man listened to the courier's words and froze in place and thought that he had made a promise while in an abnormal state and did not know what he was carrying. The head of the store told Su Ning that he had no evidence, and how could he then claim that his goods were fake, and let him prove it to them all first. The man said that even if it wasn't a Ming Dynasty product, it was a valuable antique, and he would call the police and let them solve the problem. The man asked Su Ning if he really didn't care what happened to Raoru, and he would contact her director and then they would all know the result. But Su Ning told the man that he would then lose out on profits and promised that he would never receive money again. But now the chief has a chance. The shop owner came closer to Su Ning and asked if he was really not lying and could seriously compensate for the broken antiques. Ro grabbed her brother's hand and asked him not to make deals with him because she doesn't trust this man and he clearly has bad intentions. Su Ning asked the man to name the price and then they could settle all the details and no one would have any complaints. And he was waiting for the price for the antiques. The man told Su Ning that the price of the broken antiques was 1 million and he would not bother them more, and that she and her sister could both trust the leader. Su Ning told the man that he would pay by card and let them withdraw 1 million from the account, and he hoped that the man would not complain about his sister. The store manager asked the salesman why he was standing there and told them to hurry up and collect the payment for the antiques before the guy changed his mind. After some time, the sellers told the boss that the guests spent 1 million, and they took the payment, and now the boss has no claims against his sister. The store manager said goodbye to Su Ning and Raoru and said thank you for the purchase and let them come again, and they are glad to have such generous customers. Raoru asked her brother where he got his million from and when he managed to become so rich, and she is very interested to know the secret of Ning's success. Raoru told Su Ning that he hid the important news from her very well, and she was always worried that he was not doing well. But this is nonsense. But then the system informed the owner about a special order and let him hurry to fulfill it, because he has 5 minutes and 40 seconds. Su Ning was surprised and why he had so little time and the system had not yet given him such tasks, and he was intrigued and would soon find out everything himself. Su Ning told Ru that he still had things to do, so he would go, but he would contact her soon, and they could go to a restaurant and have dinner. Ro asked her brother to wait and asked why he was leaving, and she missed him, and maybe her brother would give her some time for one day. Raoru told Su Ning that they hadn't seen each other for a long time, and she was so curious to know what he had been doing all this time in Lijiang City and that he had disappeared. Su Ning asked Raoru to excuse him, but he has work and so he can't do anything about it. But he also wants to go out with his sisters. Su Ning handed his sister the card and asked her to take it and not to argue with her brother because he was always right, and she needed money in Lijiang City and this was important. Su Ning told Raoru that there were 10 million on the card, and that was enough to have fun with his friends and he would come to them after work. Ro listened to her brother's words, and a passerby wondered if this guy really had 10 million for pocket money and who he was. A friend approached Ro and wanted to ask her questions and believed that she could help her because they had been friends for so many years and they were like family. And then suddenly a friend asked Ru if she could give her brother's phone number, and she saw Su Ning for the first time. And he was incredible. Ro froze in place from her friend's words and realized that her brother is such a handsome man that no girl can resist his charms. Raoru asked her friend again and why she needed her brother Su Ning's number because she didn't believe her stories and thought that her brother was ordinary. The system told the mission content, and Su Ning must go to Haiju Bridge to save the girl who wants to harm herself. Su Ning thought, does the girl really want to hurt herself, and this is bad? And he must hurry with all his might to save her, and he is worried. Su Ning was passing through a pedestrian crossing, and then he froze in place and thought that his reaction was well developed and he was able to move away quickly. Some guy in a car almost hits Su Ning, and he doesn't know who in their country gives driving licenses to all these inadequate people. The guy in the car asked Su Ning if he was looking at the road, and the courier apologized to the driver and said that he was in a hurry for a mission. The guy in the car smiled and asked the courier if it was really Suning himself, and he didn't expect to see him there and where he was in such a hurry during the day. Suning asked the guy who he was and how he knew his name and let him answer his questions, and then he would know why he stopped. The guy told Suning that doesn't he know who he is, and he is the curator of their university and a great talent, and how could Suning forget about him like that? The guy told Suning that he must be in good health since he can run so fast and he has to drive this car, but it's expensive. The guy told Suning that they wanted to have a class reunion, but it seemed like he had orders to deliver and what company he worked for. The guy asked Suning if he was okay, and he was worried and looked nervous, and it looked like he had some problems with his orders. The guy noticed that Suning didn't care and told him what he was telling him and where he was running off to and why he didn't want to discuss all the matters with his friend. Suning continued running and told his friend that he needed to deliver the goods, so he would go and they would talk to his colleague another time. The guy asked Suning if the idiot thinks he can just run away from all the problems and let him know that his problems will be everywhere. The guy thought that Suning was a stinking courier, and he would disgrace the impudent fellow at the alumni meeting in front of all his friends and teach the scoundrel a lesson there. But at that very second, someone suddenly drove past the guy in a car, and he got scared because he didn't expect that someone would want to overtake him on the way. It was Suning in a sports car, and the guy asked the scoundrel Suning how he could drive a car, and he thought that he was delivering parcels on foot. The guy was stunned when he saw Suning's car and thought that he was dreaming, and that it couldn't be that the courier could afford an elite sports car. The guy recognized the brand of the car and thought that it was worth millions, and Suning seemed to have lied. And maybe he has his own business and Ning is the director. People gathered on the bridge at that time and asked the girl to come down, and she was still young and she shouldn't do this because of someone, and it was a mistake. The girl asked people what they know about her life, and her boyfriend has already left her, and without him life has no meaning, and she doesn't know how to forget. The girl told the people that if her boyfriend doesn't come back, she will jump and none of them will be able to save her and let them not interfere with her now. But at that moment, someone asked Hua Hua to wait and not to jump, and he wants to talk to her personally, and she misunderstood him, and he is wrong. The guy asked Hua Hua to come down quickly and they will settle all the issues without strangers, and she should not harm herself, and this is absurd. The guy told Hua Hua that he still loved her and offered to be together again, and no one could separate them, and he would love forever. The guy got down on his knees and told Hua Hua that he was really wrong and shouldn't have left her and said the things that caused her this pain. The guy told Hua Hua that if she came down they would be a couple again, and he would carry her in his arms for the rest of his life and never leave her. The man told Hua Hua that her boyfriend had arrived and she had said that she would only come down after he arrived and now let him keep his word. The woman next to him also asked Hua Hua to come down and she could get hurt if she falls, and even her beloved boyfriend is not worth all the injuries. Hua started to cry and thought that people do not understand her feelings, and she suffers because of other factors and she is tired of everything in this world. But then suddenly the girl asked the guy who Hua Hua is and what he wants from her, and she doesn't know him and why the guy calls her Hua Hua. The woman told the guy that the girl is not Hua Hua, and it looks like he just wanted to show himself off in front of everyone and is taking advantage of the situation, and it's horrible. The man next to her told the guy that he was mistaken and that it wasn't Hua Hua, and he also doesn't understand what this guy wants, and he's weird. The guy was surprised if this wasn't Hua Hua, and he remembered that one of his female friends had the same body and the lady's name was Tintin. The guy asked Tintin not to do anything stupid, and if she remembers the love songs he dedicated to her, and he will sing to his beloved again. The guy asked Tintin to come down and he would write more songs for her and they would have a fun time together. And he would guarantee the cute. But suddenly the girl asked the guy who Tintin is and what kind of relationship he has with Tintin, and why the guy always lies to her about everything. All the people passing by said that the guy is an idiot, and he is confused about the ladies and what a shame it is, and he has so many girls that he does not remember them all. The guy told people that he can explain everything, and there is no need to judge him harshly because he already has good intentions for his beloved girl. And at that very second, Suning arrived there and thought that he seemed to have made it. But he didn't understand what was going on there and who the people had gathered around. The guy fell on his knees and asked people to shut up and not say nasty things about him. And he wants to save the girl, but no one understands him there. The guy said that it was his fault, and he had sinned many times and could no longer control his depraved heart, but was still looking for love. The guy asked Yi Yi to believe him, and this time he definitely found out and decided on everything, and he loves only her and will not exchange her for anyone. Suning thought listening to the guy's words that it was so fake, and he also wouldn't go down if such a guy begged him and he lied to the lady. The girl silently looked at the guy and thought that he was disgracing her in front of everyone, and she didn't believe a single word he said because he was cheating. The system told the owner that he could spend 500 points on the skill expert negotiator, and then he would definitely convince this young lady. Su Ning agreed with the system and said that he would buy the skill because that way he would be able to convince the girl because she was risking her life like that. The girl told the guy that she doesn't believe him, and all men in the world are the same, and they always lie, and they all can't honestly say about love. The girl said that she had been told this before, and both guys ran away when they found out she was pregnant and left her with a 2-month-old child. The guy froze in surprise, and he has no desire to help the girl, and she herself is partly to blame for all the suffering. But she blames the guys. People ask the guy where he was going, and he is shameless. And the child is 2 months old and he runs away, and you always need to take care of your own family. But the guy told the girl that she met him herself and said that he was the man of her dreams and he didn't even date her for a month, and that's a fact. Su Ning froze in bewilderment, and what a confusing circle, and he was like standing there watching a TV series. And what is happening to people in general? The woman told the passers-by that this girl clearly does not love herself, and she needs a smart advisor who will convince her otherwise. And they are waiting. And then Ning had a strange feeling, and why did this girl seem familiar? And he had to rack his brains and remember the poor girl. The girl stood still, and Su Ning thought, she can't be one of the 99 girls he kissed on the mission. The girl asked the guy how he can say that he loves her even after not being able to withstand one blow. And it looks like she will find love in another world. But Su Ning asked the lady to wait and said that it was one of the dark nights. And he remembers that day as if it all happened yesterday. Su Ning told the girl that that night, a young courier knocked on her door and he wanted to leave a parcel and couldn't stop thinking about her there. Su Ning told the girl that she didn't just open the door for the courier, but also opened it into her heart. But it was his job, and he left silently. Su Ning told the girl that there are no coincidences, and he is 100% sure that she will meet him again, and he launched the expert skill. Su Ning told the girl that she had to go down if the lady wanted to see the courier again, and he was able to intrigue her, and she listened to him. The girl asked Su Ning if this was true, and she would have a chance to see the handsome courier again in her life, and he made the lady happy. Su Ning told the girl that of course Milady would have a chance and said that maybe the courier was also looking for her somewhere and let him check their fate. The girl began to reach out to Su Ning and said that the courier was her love, and she would never forget his image and remembers him in her fantasies. But suddenly at that moment the girl slipped and lost her footing there and forgot that her legs were numb because she had been standing on the bridge for a long time. Su Ning was shocked, and he did not notice how the girl suddenly jerked her leg and he must help her. Otherwise, she will suffer from the fall, and he is afraid. The girl wanted to grab onto something so as not to fall, but she realized that there was nothing near her, and she believed that the savior would come to her aid. The girl fell into the water, and people started screaming and didn't believe that the poor lady would be saved, because for some reason no one was in a hurry to help her. People ran to the edge of the bridge and said that the girl had fallen into the water, but people said that they had stomach problems and could not help. Su Ning sees the true face of people, and so many people pretended to want to help. But in the end, no one cares, and no one cares anymore. Su Ning quickly ran to the edge of the bridge and let the girl not be afraid because he will save her and will not let her get hurt, and at the same time complete the task. The courier jumped into the water and he should swim to the girl and grab her tighter so that she doesn't drown, and why take such a risk because of the guys? The girl started to drown and begged people to help her. And she wants to live so much, and now she realized that life is the most valuable thing she has. Su Ning continued to swim towards the girl, and she was lucky that he was there. And the system warned him about the task in time, and he managed to arrive. The girl was crying and asking someone to pull her out, and she wouldn't get out of there alone. And she remembers that many people wanted to help. The girl said that she does not want to go to the next world, and in this life she has many plans that she must fulfill in time. The girl has lost hope and now does not believe that anyone will help her, and hopes that her mom and dad will not be sad about her loss and will understand her. But Su Ning managed to save the girl and asked her to calm down, and he is next to her, and now he will not let her go, and she is under his protection, and he guarantees. And then the girl felt something and couldn't believe it. Was it really that same feeling? And she remembered this guy and never forgot. The girl asked Su Ning what the courier would tell her if he saw her again, and she was very interested to know about it and let him tell her everything. Su Ning slowly took off his glasses and told the girl that if she wanted, he would continue his story, and the courier would definitely say those words. Su Ning took off his glasses and told the girl that the courier would have told her when they met that she should sign for the delivery, and then he would leave. The girl remembered how the courier came to her house and said these words, and it was definitely him, and she was absolutely sure and did not doubt anything. The girl smiled and told Suning that he found her and she was happy, and he proved to her that she was wrong and now she already believes in fate. But when Suning did not expect this, the girl lost consciousness, and he realized that she was going through emotional swings and was tired of it. The courier silently looked at the girl and decided that he had to pull her out of the water because she was wet, and let her draw conclusions after her actions. The system informed the owner that the task was completed, and he saved the lady and directed her on the right path and received thousands of points and scores. After some time, the girl gave an interview to reporters and said, "Good afternoon to all the people, and she is the girl who jumped into the river today." The girl said that she was very ashamed of her capricious behavior, and she did not want to jump into the river at all, and she wanted to find her love. The girl said that she is very stupid, and she wants to sincerely apologize to everyone because they helped her, and she distracted people from their work. The reporter asked the girl if this was all part of her plan, and then why she doesn't remember what that guy looks like, and that's weird. The girl told the reporter that she lost consciousness and remembered that he was dressed as a courier. But when she woke up, he left the place. The girl told people that if someone gives information about the courier, she will give 100,000, and to the one who brings her the guy, she will give 500,000. The girl told the courier that if he was watching this video now, he should write to her, and she was really waiting. But Suning wanted her to leave him alone. Suning thought, and he doesn't know why, but lately he is so unlucky. And in his tasks he doesn't feel like a human being. The system gave the owner a task, and he must deliver the parcel to Zhao Care and solve the crisis in her house. And the time for completion is 1 day. Suning imagined Zhao Care in his fantasies and realized that he would soon see her again because he, on the contrary, wanted to forget about this family. At this time, the man brought rose petals and candles and placed them in front of Zhao Care's house and shouted into a megaphone that he loved her very much. The guy told Zhao Care that in order to confess, he brought 999 flowers and 999 candles to Zhao. The man continued to shout that he loved Zhao Care and wanted them to be a couple, and that he was ready to marry her because she was his idol. People passing by said that it was very romantic, and the man, without any embarrassment, brought so many flowers and candles, and it seems that he loves her. People said that this man is quite decent, and his family is rich, and therefore she thinks that this is acceptable and he will achieve his goal. The man was confident in himself and knew that with this approach, he would get Zhao Care into his hands and live happily ever after. The man imagined Zhao Care cosplay in his fantasies, and no one can compare to her, and she will be magnificent, and he will get her soon. The man still called Zhao Care, but she did not answer him, and he stands in front of her house and still believes that she will come out and be so happy. The man wondered why Zhao Care was gone for so long, and whether she wasn't impressed by the 999 flowers and candles in the house. But the man was extremely calm, and everything was fine with him, and he had foreseen this in advance, and he still had a trump card, and Zhao Care would be his. The man told Zhao Care that he was willing to give her his card, and he would transfer her 100,000 a month and transfer their house to her name. People passing by said that this man is kind, and he will give everything for Zhao Care. And how can you refuse such a person, and he will not understand her? The lady said that getting millions of yuan a year is incredible, and she would immediately agree. And where can you find such guys in their world? The man thought that Zhao Care should have left the house long ago after hearing his beautiful voice, and it seemed that the beauty was not at home. Suning came to Zhao Care's house and he doesn't think that she is home now, and this guy's screams are getting on his nerves and she should have already left. The system informed the owner that Zhao Care's house had soundproof walls and no sound from outside could reach the room. And this is true. Suning asked the system what he should do now, and it picked out a suitable product for him for 500 points, and the courier immediately bought the product. Suning asked people to step aside and give him away. And he is not an ordinary person and will show people how to call beautiful girls. Suning took a huge megaphone and told people that a professional would take care of this and show a masterclass and let them learn from the master. Suning shouted into the megaphone with all his might and told Miss Zhao Care that her package had arrived and asked her to sign for it, and then he would leave immediately. All the passers-by covered their ears with their hands and asked what the courier was doing and whether it was possible to make so much noise in the courtyard of the house, and he was clearly not afraid. The man thought that the courier was shouting so loudly that his hair stood on end. And did he really think that loud speech would attract Zhao Care? The courier's scream could be heard throughout the house, and he didn't want to disturb the other residents there, but he had no other choice, and so he called her. And at that very second, Zhao Care ran out of the house into the street, and the courier was not mistaken, and the system guessed, telling the owner that Zhao Care was at home. The man was delighted and thought that everything was great. and Zhao Keir had already left, and now she would say yes to his proposal, and she liked him. The man wanted to tell Zhao Keir that he missed her, but suddenly she asked him to get out of the way and ran past him without noticing him. Zhao Keir hugged the courier tightly and said that she was so glad that he finally came to her and that she had been waiting for him all these days and dreaming about it. The courier told Miss Zhao Keir that they were not related to her, but she asked what the difference was, and she decided to follow him for life. The man listened to Zhao Keir's words and froze in place from shock, and the courier did not bring anything to impress Zhao Keir, but she loves him so much. The man asked Zhao Keir what kind of relationship she had with this guy, and he should find out about it as soon as possible, and then he would decide how to surprise her. Suning told the man that he was just a courier, and Zhao Keir said that the courier was her fiancé, and they would live happily ever after. Suning was at a loss and asked Zhao Keir not to talk nonsense, and when he succeeded in becoming her fiancé, and for some reason he himself did not remember this. Zhao Keir told the courier that it was only a matter of time and didn't he like her, and she already had grand plans for their wedding. Zhao Keir asked the courier to go to the house, but he said that he had so many parcels, but the lady said that she definitely hadn't signed yet. The man couldn't move, and Zhao Keir amazed him with her behavior and why she chose the courier and not him, because he is perfect. People stood next to the man and said that Zhao Keir really chose the courier. Although the courier's appearance is handsome and he is cute, Zhao Keir told her mother that Suning brought a parcel, and her mother was so happy that he came to them and told her daughter that she was a good girl and smart. Zhao Meihua was delighted and asked her daughter to take Suning to his room, and her mother would prepare a full banquet for him today and please them. Zhao Keir listened to her mother's words and said that she would show the room, and Suning told her that he came for a short time because his friend works a lot. Zhao Keir grabbed the courier's hand and asked him to follow her, and she would show him her team, and he would become interested, and she would amaze him. Zhao Keir suggested that the courier first go to her room and then to another one, because the living room was simply smoky and he would not be satisfied with such an environment. Suning and Zhao Keir went into her room and she asked if her room was beautiful, and she decorated everything there herself and wants him to appreciate it. Zhao Keir noticed that she had left her underwear on the bed and she needed to put it away urgently because the courier shouldn't see it, and she was very ashamed. Zhao Keir quickly lay down on the bed and asked Suning not to look at it, and she just didn't have time to put those things away, and she wanted to wash them. Suning told Zhao Keir that here was her parcel and asked her to sign it, and he would not take much of her time and would leave, and he had many plans. Zhao Keir accepted the parcel from the courier, and he said that if nothing else was needed, he would go and thank her for showing her her room. Zhao Keir held the parcel in her hand and asked Suning why he was leaving since she hadn't had time to show him the other rooms in her house. Suning listened to Zhao Keir's words and said that he still had work to do and would not be able to deliver other important packages if he stayed in the house. Zhao Keir was worried and asked Suning if he hated her and she could stop contacting him if he told her the whole truth. But Suning told Zhao Keir that this was not the case, and how could this be? And he never felt hostility towards her because she was a nice girl. Zhao Keir asked Suning why he was in such a hurry then and let him eat before going, and asked her friend how he liked this combo. Suning looked at the system and it told the owner that it would be better for him to just stay with Zhao Keir since he didn't have any other new tasks right now. The courier agreed with Zhao Keir and said that he would stay with her, and she was able to convince him, and how could he refuse her because she was so kind? Suning sighed and thought that at least the work was done so he could eat and forget about all the important missions for a couple of hours. Suning sat down in the chair and thought that he was getting tired of the tasks. But he wanted to get rid of the curse, and for this, he needed to diligently do everything. But Ning thought about it and realized that something was wrong and why he didn't receive a message about the successful completion of the task when he delivered the package. Suning glanced at the task and he had to deliver the parcel to Zhao Keir and solve the crisis in her house. And he didn't understand what kind of crisis it was. But suddenly at that very second, Zhao Keir appeared behind the courier and asked her friend what crisis he was talking about. And she was so curious. Suning sat next to Zhao Keir, and he was very scared by her words, and he remembers that no one should know about the system and he will not allow. Suning was very nervous and told Zhao Keir that he didn't say anything about any crisis, and it seems she misheard and that this happens to him too. Suning wondered if someone wanted to take revenge on Zhao Keir, and because of that, the system had not yet rewarded him, and he had not completed the quest with her. Suning decided to find a solution to the problem in the store and opened the system and knows that it will offer the goods in time and he will complete their mission. Suning saw the crisis detector product, and upon detecting a crisis, his item will emit a signal, but the cost is 500 points and let him think. The courier decided to buy this thing and realized that all the points from the previous task were gone, and he had to save up 1,000,000 points, but how could he do it? Suning told Zhao Keir that he would look around her house, and she said that of course he could walk around the house and was glad that he stayed there with her. Suning walked around the living room with the device and looked for crises, but the device could not find a crisis anywhere, and he realized that everything was fine in this part of the house. Suning went to the bedroom and there is no danger there either, and he really doesn't know what to do and how to find a crisis, and the system decided to place. Suning went into the bathroom, but the device didn't make any signals there either. And maybe there is danger outside the house and he is looking in the wrong place, and he is so exhausted. Suning walked around the kitchen and shown the device in all places, but does not know what is wrong and why there are no crises anywhere, and the system does not give a hint. Suning wondered if there was any point in this at all, and he was just walking around the house of a strange girl and looking for some kind of crisis, and it was strange. But Zhao Meihua listened to Suning's words and stood behind him, and immediately asked the courier what was wrong with him and why he was acting so strangely there. Suning told Zhao Meihua that he was fine and he accidentally pointed the device at her, but his instrument started making sounds of crisis. Suning thought why the device made a sound, and Zhao Keir's mother couldn't be the crisis or cause it because it's unrealistic and he won't understand. Suning thought, Zhao Meihua is Zhao Keir's biological mother, and she has no reason to harm her own daughter. Or is he wrong again? Zhao Keir came out of the room and asked Suning if everything was okay, and he had disappeared for a long time and she didn't know and thought that he had already left home. Suning pointed the device at Zhao Keir, and the device made a sound, and the courier had not experienced such difficulties in completing tasks for so long and was confused. Zhao Keir began to drag the courier by the arms and asked him to stop standing there and watching, and that they should have lunch, and then she would let him go. Zhao Meihua listened to Zhao Keir's words and asked him to come to the table, and she prepared a delicious meal, and the courier must leave home full. Suning sat down at the table and thought that there were only 3 people now, and if they were the ones who started the crisis, then it looks like he is the victim, and this is a disaster. Suning started to get very nervous and he hoped that he was not a victim, and he believed Zhao Keir and her mother, and was he really in danger with them? Zhao Keir asked Suning why he wasn't eating anything, and he told her that he would have lunch now because he had been waiting for delicious food for so long. Suning thought that a banquet for honored guests with poisoning and killing them was a classic, and he had watched a lot of movies and knew everything. Suning began searching the system and see if there was an item that could help him in this situation, because he couldn't just leave Zhao's house. Suning found important information about the product he needed and was surprised, and he should study everything and then buy it, because he definitely has few points. The system informed the owner that if there is poison, a silver needle is already being inserted into the object, then it will turn black and its price is 500 points. Suning took the needle in his hands and thought that Zhao Keir and Zhao Meihua should not know that he suspected them, otherwise he would fail the case. Suning stuck a needle into the meat and wanted to find out the truth, and the system clearly does not want to help him with this task, and he himself will successfully complete everything. Suning was serious and looked at the needle and thought, are they really joking? He didn't think that the result would be like this and what the ladies had in mind, and at that moment Suning quickly inserted the needles into the dishes and decided that he would be on guard and then no one would harm him, because he had been through problems. Zhao Meihua and Zhao Keir were surprised, and the woman there asked the courier what was wrong, and maybe the food was not to her taste, and she should find out everything. But Suning ate the dishes and told Zhao Meihua that everything was very delicious, and thought that maybe he was very worried, and the ladies did not want to poison him. Suning told Zhao Meihua that the dishes were incredible, and he didn't know that she could cook such delicious dishes, and well, he stayed for lunch. Zhao Meihua told Suning that he could eat as much as he wanted, and her daughter told the courier that her mother always cooked well for guests. After dinner, Suning sat on the sofa and realized that it was so delicious and he was full, and now he wanted to rest a little on the sofa, and he deserved this rest. The courier thought that he felt so good, and what kind of feeling this was, and he had never experienced such feelings before, and Zhao Meihua was able to amaze him. Suning stood up from the sofa and noticed the changes in his body, and now he understood 100% what Zhao Meihua had recently added to the dishes. Suning felt that he was becoming stronger, and energy was overflowing him, and he became a strong man. And how could he complete the tasks with such an anchor there? Suning started sweating heavily, and what was going on with him, and why did he suddenly feel ill after eating delicious food from Zhao Meihua, and she was blatantly lying. Suning decided that he needed to leave home, otherwise Zhao Keir and his mother could harm his health, and he was wrong not to trust the system, and it was a shame. The courier pulled the handle of the front door, and he does not believe that two girls caught him by surprise, and he had to leave the parcel and leave the house. But the courier was surprised because the front door was locked, and how could he get out of there now? And he was in a trap where the danger came from both girls. Zhao Meihua told Suning, and she forgot to tell him that she locked all the doors in this house except one room, and he will not run away from the house. Suning feels that he is losing consciousness, and the drug has entered his body and has begun to act, and he must hold on and not lose consciousness. Zhao Meihua told Suning that their house was soundproof and no one would hear him. So the courier decided that he should stay in their house. Zhao Meihua asked Suning not to lose consciousness, otherwise she would be disappointed in him, and she thinks that he is as strong as an animal, and that is a fact. Zhao Keier called Suning from her room and asked where he was walking because her mother said that all the rooms in the house were locked except for one room. Zhao Keier told Suning that she was not feeling well, and could he help her because she knew that he was the kindest person in the world and would help her. Zhao Keier kept calling Suning, and she can't cope without help, and she trusts him more than anyone, and only he can fix the situation with her. Suning felt very bad and he can't do anything, and he loses control of himself, and Zhao Meihua will regret everything. Suning dropped his glasses and stood, staggering in front of the room. And he himself does not want to go in there but does not know about the way to get out of her house. The courier opened the door and hoped that Zhao Keier would not attack him, and that he would not be able to defend himself from her blows if she decided to hit a friend. The courier took a closer look at the room and wanted to make sure that there was no catch and no different traps, because anything could be expected from this family. Suning noticed movement under the blanket and asked who was in the room and why they were hiding from him, and he wanted to discuss all the issues with him. Zhao Keier called Suning to her bed and asked her to come to the bed, and then he would learn important information and she would tell her friend about her plans. And at that moment, Zhao Keier suddenly came out from under the blanket and asked the courier to come to her, and she would not harm him and guarantee protection. Suning turned away from Zhao Keier abruptly and realized what a nightmare this was, and he needed to run away immediately if he didn't want any more problems for himself there. But Suning has no strength and his body does not obey. And what should he do? And he is not used to solving such problems, and it is easier for him to fight with their enemies. Suning approached Zhao Keier and thought maybe he should give in to him, because Zhao Meihua tried so hard and he would clearly never harm her daughter. Zhao Keier hugged the courier and realized that he was the most handsome guy in the world, and no one could even come close to him, and she loved him. Zhao Keier threw the dirty clothes aside and hid them from the courier, and she wants to seem perfect to him so that he will be satisfied with everything there. Zhao Keier whispered in the courier's ear, and from their first meeting she wanted to have such a groom, and thanks to her mother she is close to her dream. Zhao Keier asked Suning if she was beautiful, and he was speechless, and why he didn't often get into such situations and he doesn't know how to leave. The courier lightly hugged Zhao Keier and checked, but was convinced that his body was not obeying him, and while he was in their house he had no right to choose. Suning told Zhao Keier that she was certainly beautiful and kissed her, and she was a sweet girl, and it was hard for him to refuse the request of a sweet lady. But the system did not give the owner any peace and found a substance in his body and began cleansing. And this is a force majeure situation for the owner. The system informed the owner that he was currently under the influence of the drug and began cleansing the body even without the courier's order. The system asked the owner to pay attention that this is an emergency function with a very long cooling period and protects him. And after a couple of minutes, the system informed Suning that the cleaning was complete and he could resolve all the issues himself, since the boss had regained his sanity. Suning realized that it was close, and Zhao Keier fell asleep and told Suning that she would marry him and he was a dream guy and he was perfect. Suning realized that if it weren't for the system, he would definitely not have survived, but it helped him at the most necessary moment and saved him from huge problems. Zhao Meihua stood in front of Zhao Keier's door at this time and listened, and was surprised why she couldn't hear anything because everything was going according to her plan there. Zhao Meihua thought that the courier couldn't help himself and her daughter was very beautiful, and no one in their right mind could resist her beauty. But suddenly at this moment, Suning pushed the door and hit Zhao Meihua on the head, and she was unable to move aside, and he caught her off guard. Suning looked at Zhao Meihua in surprise and did not understand what she was doing there. But she was in so much pain, and now she needed ice for her head. Zhao Meihua was furious and asked Suning if they had really finished their business there with Zhao Keier so quickly, and this couldn't be happening. Suning was indignant and asked Zhao Meihua what she was talking about, and he did not touch her daughter and told her never to do that again, and it was mean. Zhao Meihua told Suning that the drug she gave him couldn't help but work, and besides, her daughter was prettier than many models. Suning was angry And if Zhao Meihua was a man, he would have hit her for such actions, and she was lucky that he was not very angry. Su Ning decided that it was useless to argue with Zhao Meihua and asked her to ask her daughter about everything, and she would definitely not deceive her mother. Zhao Meihua walked into the room and saw Zhao Qier sleeping, and she couldn't believe it because they had to set up the courier with her. Zhao Qier woke up, and her mother asked her daughter if she had been sleeping and let her rest so she wouldn't disturb her, and wished her good dreams. Zhao Meihua screamed and told Su Ning that next time he would definitely not leave so easily, and she would come up with a brilliant plan and lure him in. Zhao Meihua thought where else she could find a golden boy like Su Ning, and she wouldn't leave him a cent, and he would give her houses and cars. Su Ning left the house, and the system reported that the mission was completed, and the crisis in Zhao Qier's house was over, and his reward was 2,000 points. The system gave the owner another 1,000 points for his merits, and he increased the express capabilities of the business, and he is obliged to find out all the information. The system has started to open the special delivery system, and the owner will open new opportunities, and he deserves it, after all the tasks. Su Ning was delighted and asked the system what this special delivery is, and he is extremely interested to know, and it makes him happy, and it is cool. The system reported that special courier tasks arise in connection with the owner's daily courier activities, and he developed. The system told the owner that, as with normal tasks, there was a chance that Su Ning would trigger a special task in the work. Su Ning ran to the fence, and he can understand the words of the system, but for himself, in other words, so that it would be easier for him because she always confuses him. Su Ning asked the system if the more tasks he did, the more likely it was that a special task would be launched, and he should try harder. Su Ning got into the car and the system agreed with him, and the owner said that he was part of the working masses, not counting his incredible body. The system told the owner that if he completed the special task, he would receive more points and merit points and special rewards. Su Ning asked the system what these special rewards are, and he will only find out about everything after completing special tasks, and it does not lie to him. Su Ning thought that overall it was good news that special missions were open and everything else was just trifles, and he believed in his skills. The system told Su Ning that the difficulty of special tasks is very high, but he knows who works hard. Nothing is difficult for him anymore. At this time, everyone gathered at the Lijiang Hotel, and Zhou said that he was sure that investing in video sites would be profitable and how they liked the idea. All the people told Zhou Yuan that this was indeed a good idea, and they should learn from him because he was the best at doing business in the country. Zhou Yuan was proud of himself and told people that he was good and therefore could give his friends valuable advice and let them remember his advice. But at this moment, someone called Mr. Zhou Yuan and wanted him to spare a few minutes because he promised to discuss important aspects with him. The guy said his name was Zhang Cheng, and he was the head of the brand sales department and asked Zhou Yuan if Mr. remembered they had plans. Zhou Yuan shook Zhang Cheng's hand and said that of course he remembered him, and they were classmates, and he promised to discuss business with him. Zhang Cheng shook hands with Mr. Zhou Yuan and said that Mr. surprises him every time and he is so humble, and he can spare time. People said that they heard that Zhou Yuan organized this alumni meeting himself, and after graduating from school, he inherited the family business. Zhou Yuan is 24 years old, and he is the main shareholder and director of a large company. And he is a very influential person and boss in Lijiang. People said that Zhou Yuan made all his school friends feel ashamed, but people asked how dare they say such things about Mr. Zhou Yuan told the ladies and gentlemen that they had graduated from school a long time ago and had not seen each other at all, and he arranged a meeting with their loved ones. Zhou Yuan said he was sorry that he could only afford a private room for his friends in a 5-star hotel in Lijiang today. Zhou Yuan told his friends that they could blame him, and he wanted to drink 2 glasses of wine there and hoped everyone would have a good day with him. Zhou Yuan drank wine and all the people said that he was incredible and they all loved Zhou Yuan, and he even took care of old acquaintances. Zhang Cheng asked Mr. Zhou Yuan what he was talking about, and after university he earned millions of dollars and became a director. Zhang Cheng told Zhou Yuan that with his current regalia, there was no one in their class who could even be half as good as him. Zhou Yuan smiled and told Zhang Cheng that he liked what he said in school, and didn't think that his friend would grow in strength over the years. But Zhang Cheng told Mr. Zhou Yuan that he didn't understand him and wanted to tell him something completely different, and he remembered the times at their university. Chu Wen told Mr. Zhang Cheng he thought it was a good project for his company, and the guy told the Mr. "Thank you very much for everything." Zhang Cheng told Mr. Zhou Yuan that if he had any requests, he should just tell him, and he would correct all the shortcomings. Zhu Yuan told Zhang Cheng that there was a part of what he told him that he was interested in, and he wanted to pursue this project in business. Zhu Yuan told Jiang Chang that he says that there are few who have achieved so much success, and he is interested to know who has achieved everything. Jiang Chang told Mr. Zhou Yuan that there really aren't many people like that, but he knows one who has achieved a lot and is successful. Zhou Yuan was shocked, and Jiang Chang said that it was Suning, and he was the best in their department and the best in the school, and so he was not surprised. Jiang Chang said that he heard that Suning had received offers from top enterprises and top 100 companies even before he graduated. Zhou Yuan asked Jiang Chang what he was talking about and realized that the guy didn't know and wanted to protect Suning's reputation, but he miscalculated greatly. Zhou Yuan started laughing and asked Jiang Chang if he really didn't know what happened to Suning and why he praised the guy back then. Zhu Wen told Jiang Chang that Suning was now just a courier and he refused all the money, and for some reason then went to work as a courier. Jiang Chang asked Mr. Zhou Yuan if Suning was just a courier, and he thought that he had achieved great success in business and was very rich. Zhou Yuan said, "Who would have thought that he would see Suning in a few days?" and it brought him a lot of laughter because the courier was in such a hurry on business. Zhou Yuan said that many people don't know that Suning is a courier and that it's not very good, and asked his friends if they don't think so now. Jiang Chang told Mr. Zhou Yuan that he understood what he meant, and he would do everything and tell everyone what happened to Suning today. The girls said that they didn't expect that Zhou Yuan was rich now, and she should have made the first move when they studied with a rich man. Zhou Yuan thought that there were a bunch of idiots in front of him, and the ladies said that they remembered that at that time the most handsome in the group was Suning. The girls said that they were sure that Suning was doing well now, and that such people deserved happiness because he had never harmed anyone before. And then Jiang Chang came up to them and asked the girls if they both didn't know anything, and he would tell them all the information about Suning's life. Jiang Chang told the blonde that now Suning is just a courier, and he has not achieved heights in life and made the wrong choice and ruined his life. The girl next to the blonde did not understand Jiang Chang's words and why he says all sorts of nasty things about Suning, and maybe he is just jealous of their friend. The girls told Jiang Chang that he was an idiot, and they didn't believe that Suning became a courier, and slandering other people was a very bad idea. The blonde told Jiang Chang that he was jealous of Suning, so he decided to humiliate him in front of his friends, and he didn't succeed, and that's true. The girls told Jiang Chang that they were 100% sure that Suning had more money than Zhou Yuan, and that he should not insult him. Jiang Chang told the ladies to look into the hall, and Suning was not there, and he was not lying to them, and the girls could not find him in the crowd of old acquaintances. Jiang Chang shouted and said that Suning was in a terrible situation. That's why he didn't come to the meeting of old friends and why the ladies didn't believe him. The girl asked her friend if Jiang Chang was not lying, and Suning's affairs were not so good, and therefore he was already embarrassed to come to the Lijiang Hotel. Jiang Chang asked Zhou Yuan if he had missed anyone, but he told them that he had invited everyone, and was sure that everyone would be there except Jiang Qian. And then the door started to open and people were discussing Suning, and he didn't come to them, and maybe he was too busy at work and had a lot of plans. Zhou Yuan said that in the end, not all of them are so successful and Suning has the freedom to spend time as he wants, and that is his right. Zhou Yuan was proud of his position and the people around him believed his words and said that Mr. Zhou Yuan was right and he was always right. But suddenly, at that very second, someone entered the Lijiang Hotel and he said good afternoon to all his colleagues and he will meet and will soon complete the task. It was Suning, and the girls looked at him and thought that the guy had an unnaturally handsome face and that he was unique and not like other people. Suning looked at all his old friends and thought that he didn't want to communicate with them in any way, but had to deliver the package and complete the mission. Suning asked his colleagues if Mr. Zhou Yuan was there and if he had a package for that person and he should sign for the delivery. Zhu Yuan told Suning that he came to the Lijiang Hotel by himself, and it was so funny and they were just talking about him and missing him a second ago. Suning was also surprised and could it really be Zhou Yuan? And he wanted to say a few words to them so that no one would have any doubts about his friend's reputation. Suning remembers how he saw Zhou Yuan that time and he thought that he was a poor man, and tried his best to humiliate him, but then Zhou failed. People asked friends to look at Suning's clothes, and he is a courier, which means Jiang Chang is absolutely right. But they did not believe his words and were angry there. And then all the people started laughing and thought it was funny. And Suning became an ordinary courier because his friend had great potential and talent. Suning thought why all these people looked familiar, and it seemed like he had seen them all before, but he couldn't remember because years had passed. Jiang Chang hugged Suning and said that of course they all looked familiar to him, because this was a high school reunion and they were waiting for him to come. Jiang Chang asked Suning if he knew that he was embarrassed and decided to be late, and did not want his friends to know that he was an ordinary courier. Su Ning pushed Zhang Chang aside and asked if he really thought that everyone was like him, and that he was mistaken, and that each friend had his own opinion. Zhang Chang asked the courier what he told him, and thought that the scoundrel had become bolder, and he remembered that at university he was a good boy, and he was a coward. Zhang Chang realized that Su Ning was not responding to his words, and it seemed that he did not want to discuss his personal life with him. But they could help him. Su Ning asked Zhou Yuan to sign for the delivery, and then he would leave immediately because he had so many things to do, and he had to get things done in time. Zhou Yuan told Su Ning that if he hadn't specially ordered this delivery, he wouldn't have seen him today, and he didn't want to come to them. Su Ning told Zhou Yuan that he was considerate, but he had to thank him, and if it weren't for his business qualities, he wouldn't have seen him. Zhou Yuan was furious at Su Ning's insolence, and he would show Su's courier all his power, and he might even drive him out of their city forever. Zhou Yuan and Su Ning were looking at each other, and one of the girls said that Su Ning was so handsome, and he was the perfect guy. The girl told her friends that Su Ning was very handsome, and he was the same as he was at university, and the lady asked why she wasn't with him then. The friend stood next to the girl and said that despite the fact that Su Ning is very handsome, he is an ordinary courier, and no one will love him. The girl's friends told her that Su Ning didn't earn enough money, and she no longer admired the courier, and told her friends that they were right. At this time, in the administrative department, the man was in shock and asked the employee what he was talking about and let him answer his questions. The man asked the worker if Mr. Su Ning had returned to their Lijiang hotel, and Ning had not warned anyone about his arrival. The guy told the boss that it was true, and he just looked at the video from their surveillance cameras, and it was Mr. Su Ning, and he came to the Lijiang hotel. The boss told the worker that it was his fault that he didn't recognize Su Ning right away, but he would quickly fix the situation, and they would make him happy at the Lijiang hotel. The chief asked the guy where Mr. Su Ning was now, and he said that Ning went to the third floor where it looks like a meeting of old friends is taking place. The guy told the chief that apparently this also concerned Su Ning, and therefore he did not decide to stay away because he knows that many despise him. The boy told the head that Su Ning's classmates think that he is just a courier, and that is why his attitude towards them is cold and tense. The chief stood up and told the guy that they had to go, and he wouldn't tolerate those people bullying Mr. Su Ning. The chief told the worker that they would cheer up Mr. Su Ning, and he would not be sad there. And he knew that all the people in their world were very cruel. Zhou Yuan asked Su Ning if he knew what was in the package, and wasn't he interested in finding out since he had brought the package for an old friend? Ning told Zhou Yuan that he had no right to the privacy of his clients, and Zhou Yuan told Su Ning that there was a gift for him. Zhu Wen told Su Ning that the package contained a clown mask, and he thought it would fit the courier perfectly and wanted him to try it on right away. Zhu Wen told Su Ning that he is a graduate of a prestigious institution, and now he is a disgrace to them all, and he is no match for anyone and a weakling in the world. Su Ning smiled and asked Zhou Yuan if he really thought that no one was interested in him, and it seemed like he would dispel this nonsense, and that was so important. Su Ning clapped and gave a signal to the important people, and he wants to teach Zhou Yuan and other greedy people a lesson so that they don't humiliate him. And at that very moment, people started to enter the room, and they will show Su Ning that he is not alone, and that he has friends everywhere who are so dear to him. People asked what was going on. They realized that it was the manager of the Lijiang Hotel, and they didn't know why he came to meet old friends. Zhou Yuan was angry, and asked the people who they were and who gave them the right to barge into his party, and he doesn't remember inviting them there today. The manager ignored Zhou Yuan and said that he never expected Mr. Su Ning to visit their Lijiang Hotel today, and it was an honor for them. The manager told the guests that this was the owner of their hotel, Lijiang Su Ning, who was also their boss, and they all respected him. And at that moment, all the workers bowed to Mr. Su Ning, and Zhou Yuan looked at all this and did not understand what was going on. And Su was a courier after all. Su Ning told the manager that today was a meeting of his old friends and asked him to do him a favor because he trusted him more than anyone else. The manager listened to him, and Su Ning asked them to treat his old friends to the highest standards and make them all happy. Su Ning told his colleague that he also didn't want anyone at the meeting to do something that would ruin their classmates' friendship and was worried. And then the manager approached Zhou Yuan and Zhang Chang and understood what Su Ning meant, and he would fulfill any request of the boss and would not let him down. The manager pointed his hand at the door and ordered Zhou Yuan and Zhang Chang to leave immediately, and they were in the way and he would not tolerate all this. Zhou Yuan was indignant and said that he would take note of what their hotel did today, and he would tell all his friends about it. Zhu Wen told Su Ning that he didn't expect this from him, and he would find out if he was as rich the next time they met. Zhou Yuan maliciously left the Lijiang Hotel, and Zhang Chang ran after him and asked Mr. Zhou Yuan to wait for him because he is always with the boss. Friends said that people are so good at hiding their nature, and Suning is a real talent in the class, and they did not doubt their friend. The girl jumped to the side and asked Suning to pay attention to her, and they had communicated well at the university and she remembered him. Suning approached the girl and said that they had not seen each other for a long time, and he did not come to the events and did not even say that they were all going to And at that moment, the system informed Suning that a special courier mission was available, and the master had to complete their mission on time. Suning must save the love of a pumped-up guy, and the requirements of this mission are a live web broadcast of the entire task, and he understood everything at once. The system was illuminated for the owner, and he had to remember the information and not forget about the nuances of the task, because this is an important part of this mission. Suning thought that it was unexpected, and the special task came so quickly, but he thought that he needed to work for many days for this. Suning ran to the exit and asked the guys to continue having fun without him, and he had an urgent call and he had to go and resolve the issue. People said that rich people are always serious in everything they do and it's so professional and Suning should hurry there. Suning sat on the couch and realized that first he had to create his own account to start the live broadcast because the courier didn't even have an account. Suning thought that this should be enough and he would do everything because he was interested in receiving a special reward from this task. Suning called himself an ordinary courier, and now he will follow the instructions of the system, because then the task will be successfully completed. Suning started the broadcast and wanted to make sure that he did everything correctly and why the system gives him such difficult tasks in little time. Suning waved at the camera and asked the viewers if they could see him, and realized that several subscribers had already joined, and they were so active. Subscribers wrote comments that this is a new streamer and looks nice. And Suning realized that everything worked out, and he had no doubts. Subscribers wrote comments that this streamer looks very familiar, and isn't he the boyfriend of that girl from the courier team? Suning noticed that he became very popular and people were active and wrote a lot of comments. No one wanted to miss the live broadcast. Suning was not happy about this because now he wouldn't even be able to go unnoticed, and many people would recognize him, but he didn't care about anything. Suning came to the gym, and for him the most important task is important, and at this pace he will definitely be able to get rid of his curse soon. Suning saw one guy and found the target of the mission, and now he just shouldn't make any sudden movements to scare the athlete in the hall. Suning saw the jock and doesn't know why, but he doesn't feel any danger, and on the last mission he also thought that there was no danger. Suning doesn't know how to tell this guy about everything, and he can't just tell him that he came to help because he might not believe him. Suning asked the guy to give him some time, and the jock asked what was going on and if the guy wanted to sign up for private training with a trainer. Suning said to the jock, "Thank you for the offer, but he doesn't need private training now, and he came to him for another important reason." The jock told Suning that if he didn't come for this, then he shouldn't bother him now and ruin his mood, and his friend is tempting fate. Suning was dejected by the bodybuilder's behavior and said that although he didn't need training, he could help solve the current problem. Suning told the jock that he would especially help with love problems, and he is an experienced relationship consultant and knows so many methods. The jock has stopped training and doesn't know who is distracting him from his studies, and also wants to offer to help and can solve all the problems. The jock asked Suning if he would really help him with his love problems, and he wanted to ask if he had any skills. It was so important. The jock told Suning that only those people who are stronger than him can offer to help him, and he is stronger than him, and let him prove it to him now. Suning realized that this man was incredible, and asked the muscleman how he could prove it to him, and he didn't know how to prove his skills. The jock told Suning to take off her clothes, and the guy thought it was strange and why the system connected him with this jock and how to show him power. The jock told Suning that if his muscles were even half as strong, he would believe that the guy could solve his love problem. The jock asked Suning why he was standing there and asked him to act, but Suning thought that this guy was a very strange guy, and where was all the logic? Suning asked the jock to wait and put the phone on the shelf, and so he will start the broadcast in hopes that the viewers will be happy to see their idol. Suning asked the system for help, and it found a solution to his problem for Suning, and now he will show a master class to the bodybuilder. The system informed the owner that for 500 points he could exchange it for the body of a fitness champion, and Suning agreed with the system for the goods. Suning stood in front of the jock, and you can't underestimate people because they can carefully hide their muscles, and now he will show his body. Suning took off his clothes, and suddenly he had a pumped-up body and a lot of muscles, and the system gave him the body of a bodybuilder, and the owner got so pumped up. The jock was in complete shock when he saw Suning's body, and he had never seen such a beautiful body relief, and how the guy was able to pump up his body. Suning thought that the system had gone too far, and he didn't need such a pumped-up body because that muscle man next to him looked like a weakling. The jock ran towards Suning and said that his friend has beautiful muscles and he should tell the secret of success, and he wants such a body for himself. The muscle man told Suning that he has perfectly pumped-up biceps and his friend can impress any lady, and it looks like it took years to train him. The jock told the courier that his body was stronger than a bull's and how much time a day he spent training, and he was so interested to know. The muscle man grabbed Suning's hand and asked to let him touch his biceps, because even bodybuilders don't have such shapes and he's cooler than many strongmen. Suning removed his hand and told the jock to stop acting like that, and he was really getting on his nerves because he came to him for another reason now. And at that very second, Suning twisted the jock and threw him to the floor, and he doesn't want some guy to touch him and let the jock know some decency. Suning told the jock that they could now discuss business and asked him to answer whether there were any problems in his relationship, and he wanted to know. The jock told Suning that he was right, and his girlfriend said that she wanted to break up with him already and asked the mister to help him with this problem. Suning said that it was expected, and the jock doesn't control himself, and if he were the girl, he would also leave him if the jock doesn't improve. The jock asked Suning what he was talking about, but the courier hit the jock face down on the floor and didn't want him to ask the courier any more questions. The jock asked the mister because he had just said something, but the courier asked the jock to forget about it and not attach importance to his words. Suning was still in the gym and hadn't resolved the issues with the jock, but he had already managed to wear him out because he takes a long time to think and he is clearly not a genius. Suning asked the jock how he usually communicates with a girl, and he told him that he communicates normally with his beloved lady and knows the tricks. Suning asked the jock to give examples, and he wondered how stupid he was to create such a situation and demand help in his love. The jock couldn't name a single example of how he communicates with a lady and thought that Mr. Suning asked a very difficult question to begin with. Suning hopes that the pumping problem is not so complicated, and he will be able to quickly resolve all the nuances and collect the reward for the task from the system. The jock remembered one example and asked Mr. Suning if he still wanted him to give an example of how he courted his beloved lady. And then a girl appeared in front of them and told Suning and the muscleman that their figures were just perfect, and the atmosphere of their testosterone was hanging around them. The girl's heart began to beat faster, and she wants to stay there and asked the jock a couple of questions because his figure amazed her imagination. The girl fell in love with these guys and thought maybe this is her destiny, and she has to ask the guys what intrigues her so much, and he is so cool. Suning hid behind the jock, and the athletic guy said thank you to the lady for the compliment, and he is not often praised for his beautiful figure. The girl asked the jock how he thought she was beautiful, and he immediately told the nice lady that she was very beautiful and understood from the first meeting. The girl approached the jock and asked him if he liked such ladies and thought that he wouldn't refuse because she herself knew that she was beautiful. But when Suning did not expect this, the jock told the girl that he did not really like her and that he had other options, and this was intriguing. The jock told the girl that he likes to lift weights, and Suning was completely shocked by the guy's answer, and it looks like he's in trouble because of it. The girl stood there in bewilderment, and the jock told the lady that she was over 30 and too old for him, and that it was all true. Suning told the jock that now he understood how he communicates with love and why the system gives ridiculous tasks, and he is tired of helping idiots. Suning asked the jock to open his phone and show the chat with his beloved, and he would see what state their relationship is in now. And this is very important. The jock agreed with Mr. Suning and said that he would show important messages with his beloved and would be glad if his friend would fix their relationship. Xiao Fan wrote to the jock that he was like a tree, and no matter how she taught him, he did not understand her feelings and asked him not to write her messages ever. And on November 15th, Xiao Fan wrote to the guy that she wanted to break up with him and that he didn't understand her at all and was like someone else's boyfriend. Su told the jock that this was an obvious ploy to attract attention, but he really didn't write a word and didn't even apologize to the lady. The jock listened to his friend's words and told Suning that Xiaofang didn't want him to text her, and that's why he didn't want to disturb the lady. Suning told the jock that his situation was solvable and he had a cool plan that was guaranteed to resolve all their differences and reconcile them. Suning texted Xiaofan and said that he was at the gym and he wanted to invite her to a movie, and the muscle man conveyed the main idea to the lady. The jock asked Suning if that was it, and the master said that all he could do was wait for his beloved to let him know and answer him. Suning noticed that Xiaofan said that she would meet the jock in 30 minutes, and it looks like he easily resolved this conflict, and that's cool. But at that very second, Xiaofan came to the gym, and she was waiting all the time for a message from her beloved. and it's good that he decided to write to her, and she's happy. Xiaofeng was delighted and told Dajuan that she missed him, and was so glad that he took the first step towards reconciliation and she forgave him. Xiaofeng hugged Dajuan tightly, and she no longer wants to quarrel with him because they can live in harmony if they want and no longer argues. Suning was amazed, and what a contrast between Dajuan and Xiaofeng. And he is much more beloved. And together they look very strange. Xiaofeng asked Dajuan if he had become more sensitive, and he invited her to a movie despite the quarrel, and she forgives her sweetheart. Suning asked Dajuan if he understood that all women tend to say what they think and let him take the words of his sweetheart in the opposite direction. Dajuan listened to Mr. Suning's instructions and told his friend that he understood him. And now he will not make mistakes because he understood where he was wrong. Suning sighed, and this problem was probably solved. But Dajuan asked Xiaofeng, maybe she was stupid, and there was no need to take their passport to the cinema. Suning looked at the couple, and Xiaofeng asked Dajuan if he remembered to bring his passport, and then they would rent a hotel room. Xiaofeng asked Dajuan to listen to her and take her passport with her, and then she would explain all the information to him if he still didn't understand it. But Dajuan refused to take the passport and told Xiaofeng that taking the passport with her was useless, and if she lost the passport, it would be worse. Xiaofeng asked Dajuan if he didn't take his passport where they would spend the night, but Dajuan said that he would walk her home. The live broadcast continued, and all the subscribers looked at Dajuan. And how can you not understand the girl's hints? And it looks like this guy is an idiot. Subscribers wrote comments and said that they can't watch this anymore, and this is the last stage of stupidity, and it's a disgrace. Xiaofeng was furious and asked Dajuan if he was making fun of her and why he always got on her nerves or pretended to now. Xiaofeng told Dajuan that even an idiot would understand what she wanted from him. And maybe he was pretending, and she would no longer tolerate an idiot. Xiaofeng slammed the door and left the gym, and Dajuan had been to her house 36 times, but still didn't understand why she invited him there. Dajuan told Mr. Suning that he said everything as he taught him, but Xiaofeng still broke up with him, and it was stressing him out. Suning realized that he had to calm down and remember his past affairs, and in difficult circumstances it was very important to maintain composure. And at that very moment, Suning thought, if this problem can't be solved through a man, why not try another method? And that's an idea. Suning glanced at the system, and there were 12 hours left before the end of the Lijiang Hotel lease, which would be enough for him to complete his task. Suning activated the skill of negotiation expert, and he will no longer help Dajuan there because it is useless, and he has seen for himself. Xiaofeng at this time continued walking on the street and said that she was tired of the idiot Dajuan, and she gave him so many chances during this time. Xiaofeng said that she wants to break off relations with Dajuan and will never meet him again because he is a jock idiot. But at that moment, someone grabbed Xiaofeng by the shoulder and she was surprised, and maybe Dajuan came again to ask for forgiveness. But she will not forgive. But it was Suning, and he told Miss that she should spend time on him, and he will not disappoint her because he knows all her desires and will fulfill everything. Suning went to the Lijiang Hotel and thought that it looked like he would complete the task. Otherwise, he had no other choice. And the main thing is that Xiaofeng is happy. But Xiaofeng started screaming and asking Dajuan for help. And Suning told Miss that he didn't mean anything like that and she was mistaken there. Suning turned around and heard Dajuan's voice. And could it be that this strong man ran to his beloved so quickly and he didn't know that he was so nimble? Dajuan asked Xiaofeng not to worry, and he is already here and will save her from the vile scoundrels who wanted to offend her. The results will soon be regretted. Suning was nervous and asked Dajuan to wait and not make any sudden moves or conclusions because he wanted to reconcile them. But he misunderstood him. And at that moment, Dajuan punched Suning in the face. And he will not let anyone harm Xiaofeng and will protect her from people all her life. Dajuan asked the bully if he dared to offend Xiaofeng, and she stood next to him and told Dajuan to beat this scoundrel for everything. Suning ordered Dajuan to quickly stop fighting and said that it was him. Otherwise, he would force him to use force too, and he didn't want that. Dajuan recognized Mr. Suning and said that he didn't know it was him, and apologized for starting to beat him because it was his reaction. Suning asked Dajuan if he really decided to attack the courier after everything they had been through together, and he was disappointed. Dajuan told Mr. Suning that he couldn't see his face in the dark, and Xiaofeng was surprised and asked how he knew the guy. Dajuan told Xiaofeng that this is an experienced love consultant and came to help him solve the problem, and he is grateful to this guy. Xiaofeng told Dajuan that she knew that someone had set this up, and she decided to break up with him forever and would soon forget about him. The courier listened to Xiaofan's words and told Miss that she was wrong, and he could explain everything thoroughly, and then maybe Miss would change her mind. Xiaofan stopped walking and asked Suning what he wanted to say, and she was interested in the opinion of a relationship expert, and it was so important. Suning activated the skill negotiation expert and told Xiaofang that he knew who was responsible for ruining her relationship with Dajuan. And at that moment, Suning suddenly pointed his finger at Xiaofang and said that it was she who was to blame for everything. But she always blamed Dajuan, and that was a mistake. Xiaofan asked the courier why he was blaming her, and he asked her to tell him whether she loved Dajuan or not, and then he would help them immediately. Xiaofan listened to Su Ning's words and said that, of course she loves him, and adores this muscle man more than anything in the world and will never forget the guy. Su Ning told Xiaofan that he would then ask again, and what she herself thought was a sign that their couple had lost their feelings. Xiaofang told Su Ning that a sign that a couple is bored with each other is when they don't want to see each other ever again. Su Ning told Xiaofang that no matter how couples quarrel, they make up, and whoever always talks about breaking up is the real culprit of the collapse. Su Ning told Xiaofan that the woman is the dominant side, although all the guys think the opposite, but the lady can't bear the load. Xiaofang yelled at Su Ning and said that it didn't matter and it didn't depend on her and Dajuan wouldn't leave her anyway, and she knew. Xiaofang told Su Ning that Dajuan is not smart, and she knows that this jock is only interested in her and he never notices other girls. Su Ning started walking towards Xiaofan, and she got scared and she went back and asked what he was doing and asked not to scare him, and he was dangerous. Su Ning told Xiaofang that he understood everything, and the mystery was solved, and now he knew for sure how to settle their relationship and who was to blame for their decline. Su Ning told Xiaofang that she was talking about breaking up with Dajuan, and that he wasn't interested in other girls, but she missed the important thing. The courier told Xiaofan that maybe Dajuan only loves her, but he is interested in something else that he spends a lot of time every day. Xiaofang was shocked and asked the consultant what Dajuan was so interested in, and Su Ning said that her boyfriend was interested in the muscles on the body. And at that very moment, Su Ning showed his pumped-up body, and he knows the psychology of people like Dajuan well, and it is easier than others. Dajuan was delighted and said that Su Ning has an amazing relief, and it is immediately obvious that he trained as hard as he did and respect. Su Ning told Xiaofang that the woman was not obliged to fight her for Dajuan, and that there might be something else and that she should remember that. Xiaofang was alarmed and grabbed Dajuan's hand and asked her to stay away from this courier, and he was abnormal and he was sick. Dajuan asked Xiaofang what was wrong with her, and she begged him to forgive her, and she was wrong, and now she understood how hard it was for him, and he is the best. Su Ning sighed, and it was not easy, and the system congratulated the owner, and he completed a special task and can be very proud of himself. Su Ning remembered that he turned on the broadcast on his phone and had to check because he had completely forgotten consoling Dajuan and his love now. Su Ning realized that his live broadcast was watched by 1 million people, and people were interested in knowing how the series with Dajuan ended. Su Ning didn't expect that this broadcast would become so popular, and he thinks that Xiaofang and Dajuan should go into the film industry. Su Ning found out that he is the most popular streamer, and it turns out that such love stories never lose their relevance, and it is shocking. The system informed the owner that he had completed a special task, and he was thinking what reward he would receive this time, and it was so difficult for him. The system started loading the reward, and the courier hopes that he will get a cool item or a lot of points and merit points for a strange task. Ning waits for the reward to load for a few minutes, but nothing happens, and he gets nervous because the system couldn't have cheated him with the reward. Su Ning asked the system where his reward was, and maybe it was asleep, but his system told the owner that the reward had already been issued and he received it. Su Ning was shocked and thought that the system was mocking him because he spent the whole day to solve the problem of the idiot Dajuan. The system informed the owner that the special reward was the devil's body and congratulated the owner because he so persistently wanted to receive the prize. Su Ning asked the system if he had already received a special reward there, and it seemed like no one had hit her for a long time and she deserved a couple of hits. Su Ning started to pull the system, and he said that he would pump so many viruses into it and throw it away because it is a useless system and ruins lives. The system told the owner that this is an unusual reward, and the devil's body can change at the owner's will, and it is not useless. The system told the owner that he could try out the devil's body right now if he didn't believe her words and make sure he got it. Su Ning closed his eyes and concentrated on this skill, and he already felt that his body was changing, and the system gave an unusual reward. And at that moment, Su Ning began to glow with a bright flame, and the system is incomparable, and it is good that he did not abandon it in a fit of anger there. Su Ning feels like his body has become stronger and lighter, and he will not be lazy, and will now complete every special task. The system told Ning that besides that, it is now configured by the previous owner and she will explain all the information to him so that he understands it. The system told Su Ning that the work of the previous master had been given to him, and this should help in the future, and he will now become much more powerful. The system smiled and asked the owner how he liked the devil's body, and she knows that now he is happy with the system's special assignment. Su Ning listened to the words of the system and thought that it was cool, and he now had the experience of the previous owner, and no one could stop him. Su Ning told the system that the special reward was not bad and thanked it for giving him such valuable experience and always supporting him. At this time, Tuan Tuan was broadcasting live, and subscribers were writing comments and confessing their love to her, and she is the cutest streamer. Tuan Tuan waved her hand and told her subscribers that the stream was over and that they would see each other on the next broadcast and that she would prepare a surprise. Tuan Tuan told her dear followers that she loves them very much and she will always support them in difficult times and make everyone happy. Tuan Tuan finished her broadcast and the activity data is good. And her subscribers do not forget to visit her streams, and they are the best. Tuan Tuan was sad, and she wondered if the courier watched her broadcast and she can't forget him, and he always appears in her fantasies. Tuan Tuan imagined the courier in her head, and she didn't seem to see him in the broadcast. And maybe he was busy or completely forgot about his friend. And at that very second, suddenly, her friend quietly came up to her and she asks Tuan Tuan to look at this, and she will be very interested there. Tuan Tuan told her friend that she almost died of fear, and that she shouldn't approach her so quietly and she almost had a heart attack. A friend stood next to Tuan Tuan and asked her to take a better look at what she saw on the phone. And she always finds recommendations. A friend asked Tuan Tuan to look at this and whether this is not her boyfriend, and she remembered him because she does not let anyone forget about that courier. Tuan Tuan listened to her friend's words and said that she didn't care, and that she and the courier weren't a couple, and that he could do whatever he wanted whenever he wanted. A friend asked Tuan Tuan if she was sure of this opinion, because the courier was actively communicating with another lady, and didn't this intrigue her? A friend showed Tuan Tuan a video of Su Ning threatening Xiaofang, and she thought the courier was flirting with the lady and wasn't embarrassed by anyone there. Tuan Tuan grabbed the phone from her friend's hands and said, "That's why the courier wasn't on her broadcast, and that means he found himself a girlfriend, and he's a liar." A friend stood next to Tuan Tuan and asked her to calm down and that this must be part of his show probably, and that she shouldn't rush to conclusions. Su Ning at this time arrived at the right place and began to tremble. And he does not know what is happening to him, and maybe someone is thinking about him there now. Su Ning couldn't understand why he felt like it was cold there, because it was hot outside and someone was definitely talking about him. But he didn't know who it was. Su Ning thought that this time he came to a completely different place, and the system chose a different recipient, and the task was slightly different. Su Ning stood in front of a huge mansion and decided that the family was rich and who in their city of Lijiang lived in such a house, and he already recognized the rich man. Su Ning pressed the doorbell and waited for the owner of the house to come to him, because they themselves called the courier but did not open the door now. Su Ning thought maybe no one was home and he couldn't wait for them for long. And today he had to do many more tasks and it was so important. Su Ning decided that he would put the parcel aside for another day and express all his emotions the next time he saw the owner who had disturbed him. But at that moment, a girl suddenly appeared in front of Su Ning and he accidentally bumped into her because she was standing behind him, and who is she? Su Ning was very nervous and asked the lady for forgiveness, and he didn't notice her at all. Otherwise, he wouldn't have bumped into her, and they are ashamed of this incident. And at that moment, Su Ning was in complete shock and he recognized the girl. But he couldn't even imagine that today he would meet her. And she knew him. The girl asked Su Ning if it was really him, and the courier also recognized her and told Jiang Qing that he also did not expect their meeting. But he was very happy. After some time, Su Ning brought Jiang Qing to a cafe and wanted to discuss many issues with her because they had not seen each other for a long time. But she had not changed. Su Ning sat at the table with Jiang Qing, and she was not like the others, and he had good communication with her in the past, and she often helped him back then. The waitress brought Jiang Qing coffee and she told the lady thank you, and she serves them well and they will call the lady in a couple of minutes. Jiang Qing asked Su Ning how the coffee tasted and if it was similar to the one they drank when they were in university, and it was so delicious then. Su Ning agreed with Jiang Qing, and he even remembered those days when he did homework with her, and they studied like excellent students, and this is a fact. Jiang Qing told Su Ning that she had been looking for a long time, but only found something similar there. So when she has time, she often goes to this cafe. The waitress apologized to the guests for disturbing them, and she wanted to ask them if they were both in a relationship, and that was important. The waitress said that their cafe is currently running a promotion for couples, so if they order the romantic menu, they will immediately receive a discount. But Suning smiled and told the waitress that he and Jiang Qing were definitely not a couple but just friends, and they would not be able to get a discount on the dish. The waitress listened to Suning's words and asked to forgive her. But it seemed to her that she and this lady got along well, and they looked like a couple. Jiang Qing was upset and thought that Suning was right, and they were not a couple but just friends. And now there is no relationship between them. Jiang Qing continued to look at the coffee and repeated that she and Suning were friends, and that friends could not have any relationship, and she resigned herself to it. Jiang Qing remembered the events of 2 years ago, and she was swimming in the pool and came out of the water, and the weather that day was so nice. Jiang Qing began to dry her hair, and she could call her friends because all the lessons were over and they could relax with her and take a bath. Jiang Qing was standing in a great mood and no one was stopping her from just swimming, and now she could go home and do her homework for tomorrow. And then 3 guys came up to her and said that this was the school beauty Jiang Qing, and could she really be swimming all alone and not getting bored? Jiang Qing asked the guy what and how she wants, so he swims and asked not to disturb her. And it would be better to do business and not to walk there. The guy pinned Jiang Qing against the wall and said that she doesn't have a boyfriend and that there's a dance at the university this week and he already needs a partner. But suddenly at that moment someone hit the guy in the face and saved Jiang Qing and did not allow the scoundrel to harm her, and he will protect her from everyone there. The guy flew back a couple of meters and crashed into his friends and couldn't dodge the blow because someone hit him so quickly and accurately. The guy was furious and asked Jiang Qing who this guy was and why he hit him, because he wanted to chat with her, and he was getting on their nerves. Jiang Qing froze in place and couldn't take her eyes off her savior, and he came to her in time and protected her from the hooligans, and he is so good. It was Suning, and he took Jiang Qing by the hand and pulled her along and immediately asked his friend why she was standing there and they should run faster. The hooligans told the scoundrel Suning to stand, and they will punish him for hitting him and punish him for his insolent behavior, and he cannot be stronger than their brother. After a couple of minutes, Suning and Jiang Qing retreated to a safe place and the hooligans would not be able to catch up with them, and now he would not let his girlfriend go to them. Suning told Jiang Qing that he saves her every time, and what would happen if he was not by her side, and she should think about herself sometimes. Suning told Jiang Qing that he had warned her not to go to such crowded places alone, and she always got into trouble. Jiang Qing asked Suning to stop talking, and since he was so worried about her, maybe he wanted to be her boyfriend, and this intrigued her. Suning was very surprised by Jiang Qing's words and didn't think that she liked him very much, and it seemed that she was trying to attract his attention in this way. Jiang Qing stood next to Suning, and there was a quiet atmosphere, and he didn't know what to answer his friend's words so as not to offend her too much. But at that moment, Jiang Qing hugged Suning and said that she was joking and that he was her best friend, and trusted him in difficult times and that he was kind. Suning told Jiang Qing that there are problematic friends in the world, and if he continues to protect her, he will become an enemy of the guys at the institute. Jiang Qing was indignant and told Suning that who would talk about this, and some people receive love letters from ladies, but he does not answer anyone. Jiang Qing told Suning that even before classes, there was an incredible crush in the hall to see their beloved, and that this was not the end. Suning listened to Jiang Qing's indignation and asked her to calm down, and he would remain silent and would not provoke her anymore because she was a dangerous lady. Jiang Qing told Suning that if she hadn't helped him fight off all those ladies' advances, he wouldn't have been able to graduate from university. And that's a fact. Jiang Qing asked Suning not to say much, and he himself knows that they actually help each other, and he is not the only one saving her everywhere. Suning listened to his friend's words and agreed with Jiang Qing, and said that she convinced him and asked him only to calm down and not to get hysterical and scream. Suning looked down and noticed that Jiang Qing had grabbed him, and now he couldn't go anywhere, and it seemed like she had some important questions for him. Jiang Qing told Suning that he doesn't want to be bothered by ladies and she doesn't want to be bothered by guys, and they will help each other. Jiang Qing told Suning that she completely forgot to tell him, and he was already her partner at the weekend dance party, and she decided everything. Jiang Qing told Suning that it was just a graduation, and besides, it was he who chased away all the guys next to her, and who would she go there with now? Suning came home and thought that because of the influence of his gift, he could not be close to anyone and kept away from his family and friends. Suning thought that because of his gift, he does not look into the eyes of women, and his talent for attractiveness is activated only when they make eye contact. But fortunately for Suning, Jiang Qing appeared, and she not only immediately warded off all the troubles from the girls, but also helped him everywhere. Suning remembers that Jiang Qing helped him with group assignments and events, and he could rely on her in difficult times. Su Ning was getting dressed and knew that Jiang Qing was his best friend and no one could replace her. And he was very lucky that he approached her in the hallway. Su Ning fixed his hair while looking in the mirror, and he must look no worse than Jiang Qing so that all the students would be jealous and they would be cool. But suddenly at this moment, Su Ning was terrified, and he didn't know what was happening to him and whether he was going crazy or was already overtired for the day. Su Ning saw the system in the mirror, and it told the owner of Su Ning that he had a delivery task and he had to complete it in time. Su Ning continued to look at the system, and why should he deliver the parcel, and maybe the system will give him full information, and this is absurd. At this time, Jiang Qing was telling her friend that she and Su Ning were friends, and that she was wrong when she said that they were lovers, and had made it all up now. Jiang Qing told her friend that she had asked this question 3,000 times, and if she asked this question again, she would not answer her anymore, and she was angry. A friend told Jiang Qing that she had to decide for herself whether she and Su Ning were friends or not, and that they would graduate from university very soon. Jiang Qing thought that she had decided for herself that she and Su Ning were friends. But what did Su Ning think? And she was interested in knowing his thoughts and feelings. At this time, Su Ning asked if she was the system that saved him, and the system said it was in his past life, and he was reincarnated. The system told Su Ning that he still had the gift, but now he had a new life, and now he understood how it was, and the system was to blame. The system told the owner that he now had a chance to withdraw the gift, but to do this, he needed to activate the system and asked if the boss agreed. Su Ning thought that this gift was so harmful that he could not be with his family and agreed with the system and immediately received the first task. The system told Su Ning that he should use his gift there within 60 seconds on the first girl he came across now. At this time, the students gathered in the restaurant and had a great time there, and today they will walk until the morning and no one will stop them all. Jiang Qing sat alone and did not understand what Su Ning was doing and why he still had not come. But he promised that he would be with her and would not betray her. And at that very second, Jiang Qing received a message, and she hopes that her best friend Su Ning wrote to her and wants to warn her, and this is important. Su Ning asked Jiang Qing to quickly go up to the third floor, and he had an urgent matter for her, and she didn't understand what this guy was doing now. Jiang Qing remembers that anything can be expected from Su Ning, and he loves to surprise her so much, and she is obliged to go to him faster. Jiang Qing was happy and wondered if Su Ning really wanted to confess her love, and she had definitely been waiting for this moment her whole life. Su Ning thought that he couldn't kiss someone else's girl, but he would immediately ask his friend for forgiveness, and she would forgive him for this incident. Jiang Qing was going to see a friend, and Su Ning hoped that she wouldn't be angry, and he didn't want to kiss her so rudely, but he clearly had no other choice. Su Ning realized that he had 14 seconds left and wanted Jiang Qing to hurry, because he wanted to kiss her, and she was a miracle. Someone stood on the other side of the door and said that she had come, and Su Ning thought that it was Jiang Qing, because no one except her knew about his plan. Su Ning suddenly walked to the door and opened it, and was very glad that Jiang Qing came to his aid again, and they always compliment each other. But suddenly, Su Ning noticed that it was not Jiang Qing who was standing next to the door, but another student, and she was looking for her partner because he had disappeared there. Jiang Qing thought that Su Ning was a scoundrel and didn't come to the ball, but she had to climb the stairs to the third floor in heels for him. Jiang Qing climbed up to the third floor with difficulty, and now Su Ning won't run away anywhere, and she will remind him of her suffering and his absence. Jiang Qing suddenly opened the door and started calling Su Ning, and she is so happy and nothing can spoil her mood, and she will be Su Ning's wife. Jiang Qing told Su Ning that she came and was ready to help him because he wrote her a message and said that it was extremely important for him. But at that moment, Jiang Qing noticed Su Ning kissing another girl, and he didn't even look in her direction and didn't remember that he personally called her. Jiang Qing froze in shock, and she did not expect such a betrayal, and Su Ning stabbed her right in the heart. And what bad did she do to her friend? Jiang Qing dropped her phone from her hands, and now there is no meaning in her life, and she doesn't know who to trust because even her best friend let her down today. Jiang Qing's phone screen shattered into pieces, and she will never communicate with Su Ning again. And why should she humiliate herself when he is a traitor? Su Ning was very ashamed, and he asked Jiang Qing for forgiveness for what happened at that party, and he can't forget this embarrassment. Jiang Qing asked Su Ning not to worry, and it was 2 years ago, and she doesn't even remember that ball because their life goes on. Su Ning listened to Jiang Qing's words and said that 2 years had passed, but she had not changed at all. And she was beautiful that evening, and she was an angel. Jiang Qing told Su Ning that he had changed. And even though he wore glasses, he at least looked people in the eye, since he had always avoided it before. Jiang Qing told Su Ning that she always believed in one phrase, and the eyes are the mirror of the soul, and in them, they can see the truth and lies in an instant. Zhangqing wanted to take off Su-ning's glasses and wondered if anyone other than that girl had looked straight into his eyes. But Su-ning grabbed Zhangqing's hand and did not allow her to take off her glasses, and she told her friend that she thought she was also an exception but was wrong. Su-ning apologized to Zhangqing and said that it was not what she thought, and he wanted to tell her about something else, but he couldn't do it. But suddenly at this moment, Zhangqing whispered in Su-ning's ear that she wanted to get married and her friend should know about it first. Su-ning didn't finish his coffee and thought it was shocking news, and he didn't know that Zhangqing was already getting married and she also heard him. Jiang Hao repeated once more and told her best friend Su-ning that she was getting married and everything would be fine with her and their life would continue. Su-ning was frozen in place from shock and could not move. And why did Zhangqing tell him about this? And he did not want to know anything about it. Su-ning was left alone in the cafe, and now he knows what Zhangqing felt that day when he kissed another lady, and it hurts a lot.